Chapter 24:16. A Desperate Chase. Senior Apprentice Sister Yao, what should we do? The speed of these evil spirits seems to be increasing. On the flying divine artifact, Zhu Rui was on tenterhooks as she looked at the cultivators behind her who were constantly being eaten by the evil spirits. Her beautiful eyes were already filled with fear. Although Yao Xiangjuan had been concentrating on controlling the flying divine artifact, her divine sense was still paying attention to the rear. She had naturally noticed what Zhu Rui had said. She also noticed that every time the evil spirits killed a cultivator, the illusory heavenly bridge would be absorbed by the giant. The illusory sky bridge contained the essence of a cultivator's divine power. Clearly, this giant was absorbing the essence of the illusory sky bridge. Yao Xiangjuan felt a chill in her heart when she thought that if she was caught by the evil spirit, not only would her physical body be gnawed beyond recognition, even the illusory heavenly bridge in her body would be stripped out and devoured. Not only Yao Xiangjuan, but the cultivators running in front were also frightened, wishing that they could get as far away as possible. Unfortunately, their speed was limited, so how could they accomplish such a thing? As time went by, more and more cultivators died while the evil spirits behind them sped up. There were at least a few thousand cultivators who had escaped from the forest this time, but there were only about 100 of them left. Moreover, on the way to escape, there were naturally many cultivators who suffered this unexpected calamity and died under the suppression of the evil spirit army. Senior sister, these evil spirits are even faster than before. I'm afraid they'll catch up to us soon. Zhu Rui was trembling all over. Her face was pale and bloodless. She looked helplessly at Yao Xiangjuan, who was still controlling the flying divine artifact. Yao Xiangjuan sighed in her heart and said, "Junior Sister Zhu, don't be afraid. I've already used the communication talisman that Martial Uncle gave me. I believe that Martial Uncle will be here soon." "Really? As long as the palace master is here, we will be saved." Zhu Rui's eyes shone with excitement. She knew that if Palace Master Jing Yun came, then they would definitely be saved. In the southern region, which was extremely far away from the army of evil spirits, there was a desolate desert. On a small sand dune in the desert, a beautiful figure stood quietly. This beautiful figure's face was covered with a light veil, and behind her was a group of similarly dressed women. These women were all standing respectfully behind her. "All of you enter my world of flowers first. I need to go rescue Ying Xiangjuan and the others." Palace Master Jing Yun pointed her slender hand, and a blooming red lotus flower appeared. The dozen or so women behind her entered the flower without hesitation. Putting away the flower, Palace Master Jing Yun stepped into the void and shot out like an arrow leaving a bow. Palace Master Jing Yun she didn't know exactly what had happened in the north. When she received the message from Yao Xiangjuan, she knew that something must have happened to Yao Xiangjuan. Therefore, she was worried about Yao Xiangjuan's safety at this moment. Miserable screams continued to ring out, and the number of cultivators fleeing in front was indeed decreasing, while the dense sound of footsteps behind them was indeed getting closer. "Save me! Save me!" Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream resounded. The blue-robed man at the back had his right foot grabbed by an evil spirit at the front. The blue-robed man stomped his foot in an attempt to kick the evil spirit away. Unfortunately, the evil spirit's right hand grabbed the blue-robed man's foot tightly. No matter how the blue-robed man kicked, he couldn't kick the evil spirit away. It was precisely because of this evil spirit that the blue-robed man's speed was immediately slowed down and became extremely slow. This gave the other evil spirits a chance. They bared their fangs and brandished their claws as they pounced on the blue-robed man. They actually began to tear apart his flesh. "Bastard!" The blue-robed man's eyes turned red from the pain. He roared and immediately summoned the illusory sky bridge. Then, the illusory sky bridge began to self-destruct. Rumble! The terrifying energy ripples produced by the illusory sky bridge's self-destruction suddenly spread out in all directions. Then, the group of evil spirits at the front were blasted into countless pieces by this terrifying energy ripple. It was precisely this blue-robed man's self-destruction of the illusory sky bridge that slowed down the speed of the aggressive evil spirit army behind them. In just an instant, Yao Xiangjuan and the others pulled apart the distance between them and the evil spirit army. Thump, thump, thump. Behind them, the Rakshasa king narrowed her eyes and looked at the blue-robed man who had self-destructed the illusory sky bridge with extreme hostility. The Rakshasa king suddenly stretched out her right hand and pinched the ball of energy from the illusory sky bridge's self-destruction. Then she opened her bloody mouth and swallowed the terrifying explosive energy in one gulp. The Rakshasa king's move naturally cleared away the obstacles in front of the evil spirit army, and the evil spirits continued to rush forward in a frenzy. Their speed was actually much faster than before. Where did that giant come from? He swallowed the illusory sky bridge's self-destruction just like that? On the flying divine artifact, Zhu Rui looked at the illusory sky bridge that swallowed the blue-robed man's self-destruction as if nothing had happened. Her beautiful eyes involuntarily widened. The blue-robed man's cultivation was not weak. He had already reached the peak of the 7th step void sky realm. The illusory sky bridge's self-destruction was enough to kill an 8th step void sky realm cultivator. Even a half-step 9th step void sky realm cultivator could cause a lot of trouble for him. But now, the giant directly swallowed the illusory sky bridge's self-destruction as if nothing had happened. Zhu Rui instantly knew that the giant's strength was at least at the life enlightenment realm. It might even be stronger. Thinking of this, Zhu Rui's heart became even more panicked. She did not expect that such a terrifying creature would exist in the divine pill secret realm. Another 3 wretched cries rang out. Behind Yao Xiangjuan, 3 more cultivators were caught up by the evil spirits and torn into countless pieces. The 3 cultivators did not even have the time to self-destruct their illusory bridges before dying. Logically speaking, it only took a thought to self-destruct the illusory sky bridge. It was impossible for them to die before they could even self-destruct the illusory sky bridge. Yao Xiangjuan noticed this problem and could not help but look behind her. She immediately saw the mockery and indifference in the giant's eyes. Yao Xiangjuan's heart skipped a beat. She knew that the reason the 3 cultivators did not have time to self-destruct the illusory sky bridge was probably related to this giant. After 10 breaths of time, the last cultivator behind Yao Xiangjuan also let out a miserable scream and was completely drowned by countless evil spirits. Chapter 24:17. It was a shocking sight. Zhu Rui was curled up on the flying divine artifact. She could not get rid of the despair in her eyes. Especially when she saw the army of evil spirits getting closer and closer, the despair in her eyes became more and more intense. Zhu Rui's mental endurance had reached its limit as she watched the cultivators behind her die tragically in the hands of the evil spirit army. "Senior sister, are we all going to die here?" Zhu Rui muttered to herself in despair. Yao Xiangjuan hurriedly said, "Junior sister, don't be discouraged. Martial uncle is coming to save us soon. Let's hold on for a little longer." Zhu Rui shook her head. Her eyes were filled with despair, but she fell silent. She knew that Palace Master Jingyun was on the way. However, the army of evil spirits was approaching them step by step. It was as if they would be buried in the hands of these ferocious evil spirits in the next moment. This feeling of despair caused Zhu Rui to lose all hope. Bang! Suddenly, the evil spirit at the front leaped up. With a ferocious roar, it slammed its palm on the edge of the flying divine artifact behind them. The terrifying force caused the flying divine artifact to shake violently. Yao Xiangjuan's eyes narrowed. She took a deep breath and immediately controlled the flying divine artifact to stabilize it. It was also because of the shaking that the flying divine artifact's speed decreased a little. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Several more evil spirits took advantage of the moment when the flying divine artifact slowed down and leaped up. One of the evil spirits grabbed at Zhu Rui. Zhu Rui was still in a daze. At this moment, when the evil spirit grabbed at her, Zhu Rui did not react at all. "Junior sister, be careful," Yao Xiangjuan shouted. She pushed her hand out. Blue divine power was like a stream of water as it blasted towards the evil spirit. The evil spirit was immediately blasted into pieces by the divine power. It turned into dust and scattered with the wind. However, The remaining evil spirits on the flying divine artifact howled and pounced at Yao Xiangjuan and Zhu Rui respectively. Yao Xiangjuan's eyes were solemn. She circulated her divine power and blasted all the evil spirits that pounced at her into pieces. At this moment, Zhu Rui was still in a state of absent-mindedness. Or it could be said that she was in complete despair. She didn't notice the danger around her at all. At this moment, not only did Yao Xiangjuan have to deal with the evil spirits pouncing towards her, she also had to help Zhu Rui clean up the evil spirits on Zhu Rui's side. At the same time, Yao Xiangjuan had to split her attention to control the flying divine artifact to prevent more evil spirits from catching up. She knew very well that if the flying divine artifact was drowned by the evil spirit army behind them, the consequences would be unimaginable. Even if she had wings, she would not be able to escape. Junior sister Zhu Rui, wake up. If this continues, we're all going to die. Yao Xiangjuan was under a lot of pressure now. She had no choice but to wake Zhu Rui up. Unfortunately, Zhu Rui was like a zombie. She sat on the flying god artifact without moving and turned a deaf ear to Yao Xiangjuan's words. Yao Xiangjuan, on the other hand, was extremely anxious. Seeing more and more evil spirits pouncing on the flying divine artifact, she knew that if this continued, they would definitely be done for. Thinking of this, Yao Xiangjuan flipped her jade-like hand and took out the time core from her spirit ring. She had obtained the time core from the river of space-time quicksand, and it contained an extremely powerful space-time power. Her flying divine artifact was indeed fast, but a lot of credit went to the space-time core. Otherwise, an ordinary flying divine artifact would not have allowed Yao Xiangjuan to easily lead the other cultivators. Yao Xiangjuan held the time core in her right hand and waves of space-time power flowed out. Instantly, the countless evil spirits that were pouncing on them were all crushed into powder under the effect of this space-time power. Moreover, this space-time power grew increasingly powerful and terrifying as it radiated toward the rear. The evil spirits that had been chasing after them all collapsed the moment they came into contact with the space-time energy. They couldn't be any more dead. In an instant, the original crisis was immediately resolved by the space-time core that Yao Xiangjuan took out. Luo Shaking, who was following behind the evil spirit army, also noticed the time core in Yao Xiangjuan's hand. The space-time power. Is this little girl holding the time core in her hand? I didn't expect it to be the space-time core in the space-time roulette. Luo Shaking murmured in a low voice as an extremely sharp light burst out from his eyes. Then, he took a step forward and suddenly stepped forward toward the flying divine artifact that Yao Xiangjuan was on. Luo Shaking was very fast. He instantly passed through countless evil spirits and arrived at the front. Bang! Luo Shaking's huge palm reached forward and was about to grab the flying divine artifact that was inside Yao Xiangjuan's body in his hand when he was blocked by the surging space-time power. Not bad. What a powerful space-time power. But is this all you've got? Luo Shaking's voice was extremely deafening like thunder. It constantly reverberated in the sky like the might of the heavens. Luo Shaking snorted coldly and suddenly exerted force in his palm. Immediately, there was a cracking sound. Yao Xiangjuan used the time core as a medium and used the space-time power to form a net behind her, forming an extremely powerful defense. However, now that Luo Shaking had attacked, it immediately caused the defense formed by the space-time power to shake violently and countless cracks appeared on its surface. Yao Xiangjuan paled and could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. She became extremely weak. However, she still clenched her teeth and persevered. She used the time core's power to the limit while ignoring the worsening injuries within her. She knew that once she relaxed, both she and Zhu Rui would die here. Oh, a tiny ant is actually so tough. But an ant is an ant in the end. No matter how hard you work, you're still an insignificant ant before absolute power. A sliver of disdain appeared in Luo Shaking's eyes. He raised his right palm again and slammed it down. Terrifying power swept up countless gusts of wind. The evil spirits behind her were immediately torn to pieces the moment they came into contact with the gusts of wind. Bang, bang, bang. As Luo Shaking chased after the flying divine artifact, He mercilessly threw punch after punch at the Time Corps' defense. Every time he attacked, the injuries on Yao Xiangjuan's body would worsen by a few degrees. At that moment, the front of Yao Xiangjuan's clothes had already been dyed bright red by the mournful blood. Her face was even paler and bloodless, and a dense aura of death lingered in her eyes. Luo Shaqing's attacks were not simple. Even such a simple and barbaric attack was not something that Yao Xiangjuan could withstand. Even though Yao Xiangjuan possessed the Time Core, the gap between her and Luo Shaqing was just too great. She could not hold on for too long under such attacks. A stream of blood splattered and dripped onto Zhu Rui's face, who was still in a daze. Zhu Rui's eyes were blank. She instinctively raised her right hand and wiped her cheek. She discovered a drop of blood on her hand. The bright red color immediately woke Zhu Rui up. Chapter 24:18. Protect Yao Xiangjuan stood at the end of the flying divine artifact, her slender hands pressed against the space-time core. In front of Yao Xiangjuan, the 300-meter-tall giant kept smashing its fists at her as if it had gone mad. The space-time core's defenses were on the verge of collapsing and exploding. Meanwhile, Yao Xiangjuan stood there quietly. Blood stained her clothes, abdomen, and even flowed to her feet. A small puddle of blood had gathered at Yao Xiangjuan's feet. The puddle of blood was a ghastly sight, and it was difficult to look away for a long time. Senior sister. Zhu Rui realized that she had done something stupid and couldn't help but call out softly. Boom! Suddenly, the Rakshasa King's palm came crashing down again. This time, the force was unprecedentedly terrifying and powerful. When the palm came down, terrifying ripples appeared in the surrounding space, and the sound of air exploding rang out continuously. The instant the palm smashed into the space-time core's defenses, countless cracks finally appeared on the space-time core's defenses. Then, the cracks exploded and finally shattered. Splat! Yao Xiangjuan was sent flying by the terrifying force and fell out of the flying divine artifact. Senior sister, Zhu Rui screamed shrilly. She wanted to pounce forward and hug Yao Xiangjuan, but the moment she did, she realized that a sparkling and translucent talisman had appeared in Yao Xiangjuan's hand. Junior sister, crush this talisman and run. If you meet senior sister, tell her to run as well. Don't come here. This monster is too terrifying. I'm afraid even senior sister is no match for it. The moment the talisman appeared in Zhu Rui's hand, Yao Xiangjuan's weak voice sounded in her ears. Zhu Rui shook her head. She recognized the talisman. It was a life-saving item that Yao Xiangjuan's master had left for her. Now that Yao Xiangjuan had given it to her at such a critical moment, Zhu Rui couldn't accept it at all. She didn't dare to accept it either. She thought of the foolish things she had done before. She knew that if Yao Xiangjuan hadn't protected her with all her might, she would have been killed by the evil spirit. It could be said that she had caused all of this. However, Zhu Rui quickly realized that the talisman had already been activated when it was handed to her. Before she could even react, a strange force wrapped around her. Then, Zhu Rui turned into a ray of blue light and disappeared from the spot. Yao Xiangjuan looked at Zhu Rui, who had turned into a blue line and disappeared. She couldn't help but smile. Then, like a falling leaf, she slowly fell from the sky. Below Yao Xiangjuan, countless evil spirits gathered. Once Yao Xiangjuan fell, she would be completely devoured by these evil spirits. The Rakshasa King narrowed his eyes as he watched Zhu Rui disappear into a blue line. He had no intention of chasing after her. His huge palm grabbed the hollow space in his hand. His eyes flickered and no one knew what he was thinking. He didn't even care about Yao Xiangjuan, who was about to fall. The moment Yao Xiangjuan fell, countless evil spirits pounced over, densely packed, and instantly drowned Yao Xiangjuan. Yao Xiangjuan looked at the sky that was gradually being replaced by evil spirits. Bitterness and reluctance appeared at the corner of her mouth. In her mind, at the moment of her death, she didn't know why, but the only thing she thought of was that figure. In the future, I probably won't be able to see him again. And he probably won't know whether I'm Yao Xiangjuan or Yao Xiangjuan, right? If possible, I really want to say that I'm not Yao Xiangjuan, I'm Yao Xiangjuan. Yao Xiangjuan murmured in a low voice and slowly closed her beautiful eyes. Boom! A terrifying explosion suddenly sounded. The Rakshasa king, who had been looking at the hollow space in a daze, was immediately attracted by the explosion. Then he realized that an extremely terrifying force was coming from the place where the evil spirits gathered not far away. Then, countless evil spirits were blasted out like countless raindrops. It was an extremely spectacular sight. In an instant, a gap of several hundred miles was blasted out of the countless evil spirits. All of the evil spirits within this range were annihilated by this force. Only then did the Rakshasa king clearly see the source of this force. He saw Yao Xiangjuan floating in the middle of this gap with her eyes slightly closed. The surface of her body was covered by a layer of invisible and colorless energy ripples. The energy ripples spread out in all directions and rushed into the sky, transforming into a blurry figure. At a closer look, this figure should be the figure of a woman. She wore an illusory crown on her head and exuded a solemn aura. A divine energy of life and death. This human woman's identity is not ordinary. There's actually an expert of the two extremes of life and death who set up this layer of protection on her body. Looks like I misjudged. The Rakshasa king's eyes narrowed. Then, a sinister smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He continued, "The divine energy of life and death is to my liking. Break this defense and I'll absorb all of this woman's divine energy. Perhaps I can even absorb the remaining divine energy of life and death in her body." Thinking of this, the Rakshasa king strode forward. Then, he suddenly punched out with his right fist and blasted it unceremoniously at the defense, emitting a holy light. Bang, bang, bang. However, this layer of protection was set up on Yao Xiangjuan by an expert of the two extremes of life and death after all. The Rakshasa king could not break it open in a short time. However, the Rakshasa king was not discouraged. At his peak, he had the strength of the two extremes of life and death. Although he had regressed to the strength of the life comprehension realm, he was not facing an expert of the two extremes of life and death. However, what he was facing right now was not the true body of an expert at the extreme realm of life and death. Instead, it was just a defense that the expert had set up on a junior. The Rakshasa king knew that this defense was destined to be limited. Once the energy of this defense was completely exhausted, it would not be a threat to him at all. Thinking of this, the Rakshasa king repeatedly blasted the defense on Yao Xiangjuan's body as if he was possessed. Meanwhile, Yao Xiangjuan had already fainted due to her heavy injuries. Even if she had not fainted, she would not be of any help. In a remote valley thousands of miles away from the army of evil spirits, Juan walked out of his cave with a frown. He floated in the air and spread out his powerful divine sense. He immediately saw the densely packed army of evil spirits thousands of miles away. Of course, he also saw the Rakshasa king that was hundreds of meters tall. Although Zhuan had never seen the Rakshasa king before, the Rakshasa king's aura and appearance were too similar to the Rakshasa he had encountered before. Moreover, the aura of this giant was much more terrifying than that of the Rakshasa he had encountered before. He thought of a bad possibility. Zhuan soon noticed the Rakshasa king's actions. It seemed to be bombarding something. Only then did his divine sense fall on Yao Xiangjuan, who was under the protection. Miss Xiangjuan? Why is she here? Chapter 24:19. The best opportunity. Zhuan's eyes flickered as he looked at the demon king attacking Yao Xiangjuan's protective layer. His face turned gloomy. At this moment, the pill emperor tortoise slowly walked out of the cave dwelling. It had been helping Zhuan to refine the fusion divine pills. Now, it had finally finished refining the fusion divine pills that Zhuan had ordered. As soon as the pill emperor tortoise came out, it felt that something was wrong. It asked subconsciously, "What are you looking at?" Zhuan looked at the front and said seriously, "I'm asking if that's the demon king." The pill emperor tortoise was stunned, then it laughed. "Are you kidding me? The demon king is still sealed in the Death Valley. How could it?" As it spoke, the pill emperor tortoise turned around and looked at the giant in front of it. Its body trembled as if it had seen a ghost. Demon king? What's going on? The Pill Emperor Tortoise couldn't help but exclaim in disbelief. I was about to ask you the same thing. Previously, I risked my life to enter the Death Valley and placed the death candle around the altar according to your orders. I thought that it would be able to seal the Demon King, but Zhuowen's voice was cold. The Pill Emperor Tortoise coughed a few times and said, I think I should leave the Divine Pill's secret realm with you. This place is no longer suitable for me. Zhuon looked at the Pill Emperor Tortoise in front of him with a strange gaze. This guy couldn't be afraid of the Demon King, right? This guy had clearly vowed not to leave the Divine Pill's secret realm. The Demon King has broken the seal. Don't you have any other way to save it? Zhuon said coldly. The Pill Emperor Tortoise smiled embarrassedly. You're thinking too much. How can I save it? Since the death candle couldn't seal it, don't expect me to subdue it. Now that we see this guy, the first thing we do is run. Zhuon looked at the Pill Emperor Tortoise speechlessly. If Yao Xiangjuan wasn't there, Yun would have the same thought as the Pill Emperor Tortoise. However, after knowing that Yao Xiangjuan was in danger, with Zhuowen's personality, he couldn't just sit and watch. Hey, what are you hesitating for? Hurry up and run. If you don't run now, it will be too late. When the Demon King finds us, we'll be finished. When the Pill Emperor Turtle saw that Zhuowen wasn't planning on running away, it couldn't help but remind him. You go first. I still have to save people. Zhuowen said indifferently. What? You want to save people? Don't tell me you want to save that woman? The Pill Emperor Turtle hurriedly said. The Pill Monarch Tortoise naturally noticed Yao Xiangjuan before, but it didn't have any impression of her, so it didn't pay much attention to her. Yao Chi Tortoises Demon A's God didn't. It was no stranger to this energy and knew that it was the divine power of life and death. This woman's background should not be low. Otherwise, it would be impossible for a life and death stage expert to set up a protective barrier around her. I say, Zhuowen, why are you taking the initiative to get involved in this mess? I'm telling you, you're just going to die if you go, Pill Emperor Turtle said earnestly. She's my friend. Zhuowen said seriously. The Pill Emperor Tortoise was choked by Zhuowen's words. He said angrily, so what if she's your friend? You know it's dangerous, yet you still want to die. Don't worry about it. Zhuowen ignored him. He slowly withdrew his aura and planned to save Yao Xiangjuan. However, he was stopped by the Pill Emperor Tortoise. What's wrong? Zhuowen asked with a frown. The Pill Emperor Tortoise looked at Zhuowen with a complicated expression and said, Do you know why those evil spirits haven't noticed us yet? Zhuowen was startled. Hearing the Pill Emperor Tortoise's words, Zhuowen realized that with the 5 senses of the evil spirits, even if he was thousands of miles away, they should have noticed him. Even if those evil spirits weren't high level and couldn't sense them, the Demon King should have sensed something. However, the Demon King seemed to be pretending to be deaf and mute. He didn't even look in their direction. The Pill Emperor Tortoise didn't mention it before, so Zhuowen didn't realize it. Now he realized it. The perception of evil spirits is different from you human cultivators. They can sense vitality. All living beings have vitality. This kind of vitality can be sensed by evil spirits from very far away, the Pill Emperor Tortoise said calmly. You mean to say that our anger has been concealed? Zhuowen asked in surprise. Nonsense. Of course it has been concealed by the wise and divine Lord Tortoise. Otherwise, Demon King wouldn't notice you if you stared at him like that. Dream on. The Pill Emperor Tortoise said proudly. Is it because of the Pill Emperor Furnace? Zhuowen looked at the Pill Emperor Furnace on the Pill Emperor Tortoise's back with a surprised expression. This Pill Emperor Furnace appeared in Death Valley. When he saw the Pill Emperor Tortoise's expression, he knew that this Pill Emperor Furnace had an inseparable relationship with the Pill Emperor Fire of the Divine Pill's secret realm. The Pill Emperor Tortoise's expression froze. He coughed dryly and said, The Pill Emperor Furnace has some influence, but it's mainly because of Lord Tortoise's control. Help me get closer to the evil spirits. Zhuowen looked at the Pill Emperor Tortoise seriously. The Pill Emperor Tortoise hesitated and said, Okay, but you have to be careful. Zhuowen nodded. He held the shrunken Pill Emperor Furnace in his hand and began to slowly approach the army of evil spirits in front of him. With the Pill Emperor Furnace concealing his vitality, The army of evil spirits basically couldn't sense Zhuowen's approach. Even the Rakshasa king wouldn't be able to detect Zhuowen's presence if he didn't search carefully. When Zhuowen was about 100 meters away from the army of evil spirits, he stopped. He found a rather remote grove and crouched down, silently observing the Rakshasa king. At this moment, the demon king's attention was completely focused on Yao Xiangjuan. It was smashing the protective energy around Yao Xiangjuan like a madman. How could it notice Zhuowen's figure in the remote small forest 100 meters away? Of course, even if the demon king noticed, it probably wouldn't care too much. After all, Zhuowen's vitality was too weak. It was only at the 7th level of the void sky. Such a cultivator was simply not worth mentioning in the eyes of the demon king, let alone having any effect on it. Zhuowen silently looked at the powerful protective energy around Yao Xiangjuan's body. He was surprised and said, "It seems that Miss Yao's master is not simple. He is actually a master of the two extremities of life and death. He even personally placed a protective energy on her body." Zhuowen always knew that Yao Xiangjuan's status in the Six Desires Heavenly Palace was not low, but he didn't expect that Yao Xiangjuan would have a relationship with a master of the two extremities of life and death. Now, Zhuowen was waiting for the best time to make a move. In his opinion, the best time to make a move should be the moment the Demon King smashed the protective energy around Yao Xiangjuan's body. That moment should also be when the Demon King was the most relaxed. After all, Zhuowen didn't know if the protective energy around Yao Xiangjuan's body repelled him. If it repelled him, he couldn't even break the protective energy around Yao Xiangjuan's body. Chapter 24:20. Saving Someone. Boom. 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 The Rakshasa King's eyes turned scarlet. The frequency of his punches became faster and more frequent. Almost every punch could set off a terrifying gale. The evil spirits in the surroundings all revealed terrified expressions and distanced themselves from the Rakshasa King. Finally, under the Rakshasa King's almost barbaric bombardment, the powerful protective barrier around Yao Xiangjuan's body shattered like glass. Countless cracks appeared. Seeing this scene, the Rakshasa King's eyes revealed joy. The reason why he spent so much effort to shatter this protective barrier was naturally because he desired to devour Yao Xiangjuan's flesh. Of course, Yao Xiangjuan's cultivation base was not high, so the Rakshasa King did not care about Yao Xiangjuan's divine power at all. What he truly cared about was the divine power of life and death left in Yao Xiangjuan's body by the twin extremes of life and death. Although most of the divine power of life and death in Yao Xiangjuan's body had been converted into protective energy, there would still be a portion left in her body. The Rakshasa King's goal was that portion of divine power of life and death left in Yao Xiangjuan's body. More and more cracks appeared on the protective barrier around Yao Xiangjuan's body, becoming denser and denser. Finally, with a crisp shattering sound, the protective barrier shattered into countless fragments, revealing Yao Xiangjuan's helpless and beautiful body. Yao Xiangjuan's body trembled. Amidst the huge tremors, she faintly woke up. Then, she saw the Rakshasa King draped in skeletons and the Rakshasa King's huge palm in front of her. Especially when she saw the Rakshasa King's ferocious face and the sky-covering palm, Yao Xiangjuan's beautiful eyes first became confused, then revealed a helpless and miserable expression. Master's protective barrier has also been broken. Today, I'm destined to die, but forget it. Yao Xiangjuan softly murmured, but her beautiful eyes regained their calmness. She was not afraid of death. When she was very young, she had experienced death several times, so she was no stranger to death. However, she still had thoughts in her heart. She still had things waiting for her to complete. She felt that dying like this was not worth it. However, now that death was gradually approaching, Yao Xiangjuan was much calmer. Her eyes became blurred, and her thoughts seemed to have drifted far away. In the dark and gloomy mass grave, she saw a lonely and helpless little girl walking slowly among the countless corpses in the mass grave. The little girl was only wearing a dirty white gown. This white gown was too long, dragging on the ground. The little girl was stumbling as she walked. But even in this mass grave filled with death and decay, the little girl didn't cry. Her tender little face was filled with stubbornness and unyieldingness. Even if she was hungry and ate wild fruits, leftovers, or even rotten flesh, she never cried. She was the only living creature in this mass grave. Until one day, a woman in a white Taoist robe descended from the sky. She saw the little girl and everything the little girl had experienced in the mass grave. Thus, the white-robed woman took the little girl away from this mass grave filled with decay and death. "Master, I'm sorry." Yao Xiangjuan revealed a helpless smile and slowly closed her eyes. However, the moment she was about to close her eyes, she seemed to see a familiar figure. She wanted to open her eyes to see the figure clearly, but she found that her eyelids were very heavy and oppressive. She couldn't control them at all. Then, Yao Xiangjuan felt a strong arm around her waist. She wanted to struggle, but a familiar voice rang in her ears, causing her to involuntarily give up. "Don't move. It's me. I'll take you away from here." The low and magnetic voice slowly echoed in Yao Xiangjuan's ears, causing her delicate body to soften. She completely stopped resisting and allowed the arm to hug her. At this moment, the Rakshasa king's outstretched hand grabbed empty air. His huge body couldn't help but stiffen on the spot. Just as he was about to grab Yao Xiangjuan, a figure moved at lightning speed and grabbed Yao Xiangjuan before he could and took her away from this place. "Bastard, how dare you steal from me? You've got guts." The Rakshasa king's gaze fell on the back of the white-robed young man who was fleeing in panic. A bloodthirsty light burst forth from his eyes as he suddenly stepped forward. On the other hand, the army of evil spirits was like a swarm of infuriated bees as they swarmed toward Zhuowen. The scene was extremely spectacular. Zhuowen looked at the Rakshasa king who was closing in on him from behind and summoned the space-time wheel without hesitation. "Die!" The moment Zhuowen summoned the space-time wheel, the Rakshasa king instantly caught up. His huge palm swept over without hesitation and arrived behind Zhuowen in an instant. "Alchemy Emperor Turtle, I'll have to trouble you to block this." After Zhuowen finished speaking, he unceremoniously took out the Alchemy Emperor Turtle again as a shield. The Alchemy Emperor Turtle didn't even have time to react before it immediately felt a terrifying wind whistling toward it. It swallowed all the curses it wanted to say and could only enlarge the Alchemy Emperor furnace to block this attack first. Bang! The sound of metal clashing rang out clearly and shot straight into the sky. The Alchemy Emperor Turtle, who was in the furnace, was extremely unlucky to be in this shaking. It rolled violently and hit walls everywhere. However, it was cursing Zhuowen in its heart. Thump, thump. The Rakshasa king couldn't help but be pushed back more than 10 steps by the rebound force. He looked at the Alchemy Emperor furnace in front of him in surprise and said, "Alchemy Emperor furnace? You have an Alchemy Emperor furnace on you? Or you? Hey, Rakshasa king, you don't recognize me? Are you treating me like air?" The Alchemy Emperor Turtle resisted the dizziness in his head and crawled out of the Alchemy Emperor furnace. He rolled his dead fish eyes and looked at the Rakshasa king in front of him with some dissatisfaction. As the Rakshasa king's attention was mostly on Zhuowen, he didn't notice the Alchemy Emperor Turtle. Now that the Alchemy Emperor Turtle spoke, he also noticed the Alchemy Emperor Turtle. "It's you, Alchemy Emperor Turtle. You're not dead?" The Rakshasa king said in surprise. "It seems that you want me to die." "I won't die. In fact, I'll definitely live much longer than you," the Alchemy Emperor Turtle said in a very suicidal manner. "If you're going to die now, don't think that you're my opponent just because you have an Alchemy Emperor furnace. You're just a tool for the Alchemy Emperor fire. Other than being a little hard, you're just a piece of trash." The Rakshasa king sneered. He clenched his right hand into a fist and blasted it toward the Alchemy Emperor Turtle. Although the Alchemy Emperor Turtle was stubborn, he knew that he was definitely not a match for the Rakshasa king. Chapter 24-21. Skipped. All right. Zhuowen took Yao Xiangjuan onto the space-time wheel and grabbed the Pill Emperor Turtle in his hand. He turned into a stream of light and rushed towards the south. Liu Sha King missed. He stared at the space-time wheel and frowned. Space-time power again. How can this kid's flying divine tool be so fast? But do you think you can get rid of me like this? As he spoke, Devil King took large strides forward. His speed was extremely fast, and he instantly shook off the evil spirit army behind him. Luosha King had not been serious before. Now that he was serious, his speed had reached a terrifying level. On the space-time wheel, Zhuan saw that he had not shaken off Luosha King. Instead, Luosha King was getting closer and closer. His pupils involuntarily shrank. Damn it, Luosha King is still so fast. Zhuan, can't your lousy flying divine tool continue to accelerate? The Pill Emperor Turtle could not help but curse. Zhuan was speechless. He took out a crystal that looked like a heart from his spirit ring. This was the space-time heart that Zhuan had obtained. Space-time wheel was made up of the core components of the space-time disk. As soon as it was refined, its speed had reached a terrifying level. Even LV Haoyan, who was at the life enlightenment realm, might not be able to catch up. Therefore, Zhuan usually did not use the space-time wheel. But now that Luosha King's speed was much faster than LV Haoyan's, Zhuan had no choice but to use the space-time wheel. The space-time wheel's main function was not the powerful space-time power inside, but the space-time wheel could double the speed of the flying divine tool. Zhuan's space-time wheel was refined from the core components of the space-time disk. It was undoubtedly the most compatible with the space-time wheel. Therefore, the space-time wheel's acceleration effect was the best. When Zhuan placed the space-time wheel's core position, the space-time wheel's speed suddenly increased by several times. Luosha King, who was getting closer, was gradually pulled away by the space-time wheel. In the end, Luosha King was completely shaken off by the space-time wheel. Phew, kid, this flying divine artifact of yours isn't bad. Its speed is actually so terrifying. The Pill Emperor Turtle looked at the ordinary-looking space-time wheel in surprise. He hadn't expected Zhuan's space-time wheel to be so fast. Even Zhuan was extremely surprised. This was the first time he had placed the space-time heart on the space-time wheel. He did not expect the effect to be so obvious. How many evil spirits are there in Death Valley? Zhuan suddenly asked solemnly. The Elixir Monarch Turtle pondered for a moment, then let out a hollow laugh and said, "There are so many that I can't even count them all. After all, these evil spirits can actually be created by the Rakshasa King. I'm afraid it won't be a problem for them to occupy the entire Divine Pill secret realm." Zhuan's pupils shrank. He didn't expect that there would be so many evil spirits. In other words, the Divine Pill secret realm would soon fall into the hands of the evil spirit army. We have to get out in advance. Let's go to the exit first. After saying that, Zhuan controlled the space-time reincarnation and flew towards the exit of the Divine Pill secret realm. Before entering the Divine Pill secret realm, the second elder had already told Zhuan the location of the exit of the Divine Pill secret realm. There were a total of 3 exits in the Divine Pill secret realm. This time, Zhuan was heading towards the closest exit. After Zhuan had shaken off the Rakshasa King, the Rakshasa King also stopped. Damn it, this human actually has such a powerful flying divine tool. I was too careless. However, now that the Divine Pill secret realm has been sealed, as long as they are still in the Divine Pill secret realm, these 2 human cultivators won't be able to escape. The Rakshasa King coldly snorted, then walked back. He was now too far away from the evil spirit army. He had to go back and command those evil spirits. Otherwise, those evil spirits would fall into chaos if no one commanded them for a long time. Far away in the south, a blue line landed on top of a snow-covered mountain range, revealing a dispirited, beautiful figure. "Senior sister, I'm sorry. It's all my fault. I would rather sacrifice myself. Why were you so stupid to save me?" This was an ordinary-looking young woman. At this moment, her face was covered in tears, and she was crying miserably. "No, I have to find the palace master. Now, only the palace master has the ability to save senior sister." This woman's eyes were filled with determination. "Zhu, why are you here?" Just as this woman was about to stand up, a surprised voice came, causing her body to stiffen. "Palace master, is it really you?" The woman suddenly turned around and looked at the beautiful woman with a veil in front of her. Her beautiful eyes were filled with tears. This beautiful woman with a veil was none other than Palace Master Jing Yun. She happened to pass by this place, and her divine sense swept over Zhu Rui, so she deliberately stopped. "Where's Xiangjuan?" Palace Master Jing Yun looked at Zhu Rui, who was crying miserably, and frowned. She had a bad feeling in her heart. "Palace Master, I'm sorry." "Senior sister," Zhu Rui thought of the sad thing and cried again. Fortunately, she was stopped by Palace Master Jing Yun. Then, under the instruction of Palace Master Jing Yun, Zhu Rui told her everything that had happened before. After Palace Master Jing Yun heard it, her expression changed greatly. She secretly cursed, and with a wave of her hand, she also took Zhu Rui into the flower and rushed towards the north. "I hope I can still make it in time. I really didn't expect such a big thing to happen in Death Valley." Palace Master Jing Yun frowned. Although she knew that Yao Xiangjuan had the divine power of life and death left by the Palace Master of the Intentional Desire Palace, from Zhu Rui's description, the strength of the 300-meter-tall giant was unfathomable. It even showed signs of surpassing the Life Enlightenment Realm experts. Therefore, Palace Master Jing Yun was now very worried about Yao Xiangjuan's safety. After a while, Palace Master Jing Yun saw countless black dots in the distance in the north. She knew that these should be evil spirits. Among these countless evil spirits, she also saw Luo Sha King, who stood out like a crane among chickens. "Where's Xiangjuan?" Palace Master Jing Yun didn't hold back at all as she released the powerful aura of the Life Enlightenment Realm. The terrifying aura was like countless storms, crushing all the evil spirits around her into nothingness. Palace Master Jing Yun's beautiful eyes looked at Luo Sha King with extreme hostility. Luo Sha King looked at Palace Master Jing Yun, licked his lips and said, "Life Enlightenment Realm? I didn't expect that there would be a Life Enlightenment Realm cultivator in this divine pill secret realm. Kikik, I just happen to need the flesh and blood of a Life Enlightenment Realm cultivator to nourish myself. As for that Xiangjuan you're talking about, could it be the little girl I took care of before? That little girl has already become my meal. I have to say, the divine power of life and death is really delicious." Saying that, Luo Sha King sneered and punched out, mercilessly towards Palace Master Jing Yun. Chapter 24-22. Mandala's Tomb Boom. Luo Sha King didn't hold back at all in this punch. The wind from his punch swept across the sky, causing the entire sky to change color. It was as if a terrifying storm was brewing. Palace Master Jing Yun's beautiful eyes narrowed into slits, revealing an extremely solemn expression. Palace Master Jing Yun's jade-like hands formed an orchid shape, and the mysterious life divine energy gathered in her jade-like hands. She struck across the air, and countless illusory images of flower petals drifted in the void. Bang, bang, bang. In just an instant, Luo Sha King's fist energy and Palace Master Jing Yun's orchid-shaped fingers collided in the void. They collided 3 times in an instant, and each collision caused an extremely ear-piercing boom. Thump, thump. Palace Master Jing Yun let out a muffled groan and took more than 10 steps back. Luo Sha King's huge body shook slightly, but he only took a few steps back. From the result of this exchange, it was clear who was stronger and who was weaker. Interesting. Your strength is stronger than the average Life Enlightenment Realm cultivator. It seems that your flesh and blood must be more delicious than the average Life Enlightenment Realm cultivator. Luo Sha King licked his lips, and his eyes revealed a greedy look. It was as if the person in front of him was a peerless delicacy. Palace Master Jing Yun's beautiful eyes frowned, and she said coldly, "Where is Xiangjuan? I don't sense her aura on you." Palace Master Jing Yun began to calm down. Yao Xiangjuan's position in the Six Desires Heavenly Palace was very special. She naturally had the responsibility to protect Yao Xiangjuan, and she had also placed her own mark on Yao Xiangjuan. She could only sense this mark within a certain range. Even if Yao Xiangjuan died in the hands of Luo Sha King, she could still find Yao Xiangjuan's body through this mark. However, she didn't sense anything nearby. Clearly, Yao Xiangjuan wasn't nearby, and it was very likely that she was still alive. Thinking of this, Palace Master Jing Yun felt a little better. If Yao Xiangjuan had died, she wouldn't have the face to see the palace master of the Six Desires heavenly palace. She might even be punished. Luo King didn't answer Palace Master Jing Yun's question. Palace Master Jing Yun was a delicious meal in his eyes, and he wouldn't let such a meal pass him by. Keep this person. Luo King let out a low roar. Instantly, the countless evil spirit army behind him charged towards Palace Master Jing Yun as if they had gone mad. Palace Master Jing Yun released her aura without holding back, forming a terrifying defensive circle that caused the evil spirits to explode one after another when they got close to her. However, the number of evil spirits was simply too great. They came one after another, causing Palace Master Jing Yun's energy to be greatly depleted. Luo King didn't care about the life and death of those evil spirits. Since he had so many evil spirits here, he didn't feel any heartache even if thousands or tens of thousands of them died. As long as he could use the evil spirits as cannon fodder to exhaust Palace Master Jing Yun, he was naturally willing to do so. Palace Master Jing Yun also realized the Rakshasa King's purpose, and her expression turned ugly. Now she was sure that Yao Xiangjuan was still alive. As for her specific whereabouts, she was still not sure. In addition, the Rakshasa King's strength was too terrifying. She would be at a disadvantage if she were to fight such an existence head-on. Now, she was also thinking of retreating. Let's leave this place first. We'll find Xiangjuan when the time comes. Thinking of this, Palace Master Jing Yun formed a seal with her jade-like hands. Instantly, red flower petals began to float around her. More and more flower petals floated out. Instantly, a sea of flowers was formed around Palace Master Jing Yun. It was boundless, just like a sea of red. The sea of flowers revolved around Palace Master Jing Yun and began to rotate. Moreover, the rotation speed was increasing. The tearing force produced by the rotation of the sea of flowers was extremely terrifying. The evil spirits that pounced on her were torn into pieces the moment they touched the sea of flowers. Almost none of the evil spirits were able to break through the range of the sea of flowers. After clearing the troublesome evil spirits around her, Palace Master Jing Yun tapped her jade-like feet and quickly flew towards the south. Luo King had already seen through Palace Master Jing Yun's intention. Seeing that Palace Master Jing Yun was planning to escape, he snorted coldly. His palm, which was like a cattail leaf fan, arrived first and heavily struck the path that Palace Master Jing Yun was escaping on. Palace Master Jing Yun felt the terrifying palm wind. She knew that if she continued to escape on this path, she would definitely collide with that huge palm. Helpless, Palace Master Jing Yun could only retreat and avoid that palm. I said, you are now my prey. Don't try to escape. Luo King sneered coldly. The palm that was striking down suddenly changed its direction and swept towards Palace Master Jing Yun. Palace Master Jing Yun sighed softly. Her jade-like hand grabbed at the void. Unknowingly, a long sword with strange patterns appeared in her palm. This long sword was engraved with all kinds of different patterns. For example, there were roses, lilies, daffodils, and other common flowers. There were also other rare flowers such as begonia, devil's snare, and so on. Mei. Palace Master Jing Yun held the sword in her jade-like hand and fiercely slashed down from above. The sword light was like water. It actually turned into a huge purple rose and descended in front of that huge palm. The moment the purple rose landed on the palm seemed to be frozen and completely stopped in midair. Palace Master Jing Yun's jade-like hand did not stop. She slashed out again and shouted, Devil's Snare's Tomb. This sword light turned into countless devil's snare flowers. Under the countless devil's snare flowers, a huge tombstone appeared. This huge tombstone with the devil's snare flowers floating on it was like an arrow that was released from a bow. It heavily smashed into that palm. Instantly, the huge palm was blasted away. Palace Master Jing Yun slashed out several more times. Every slash was a different flower. They looked beautiful and extremely powerful. The moment she blasted away the palm, Palace Master Jing Yun seized the opportunity and leaped away. She wanted to escape from this place. However, Luo King was obviously not that easy to fool. Luo King coldly snorted. His empty left hand suddenly pulled out the huge bone sword from his back. Rumble! The moment Luosha King pulled out the bone sword, he fiercely swung it in the direction Palace Master Jingyun left. The bone sword was too long. Palace Master Jingyun was still within the range of the bone sword. She did not even have time to react before she was shocked by the wind created by the swing of the bone sword. Palace Master Jingyun did not even think about it. She immediately raised the long sword in her hand and met the attack. The bone sword was too fast. Palace Master Jingyun could only use this posture to block the attack. Bang, 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 bang. The bone sword hit the long sword. In an instant there were 3 strange sounds. It was as if the bone sword had hit the long sword 3 times in an instant. Palace Master Jingyun's beautiful face changed greatly. The bone sword had only hit once. The other 2 times were the instant the bone sword touched the long sword. 2 hidden forces were released when the bone sword hit the long sword. Chapter 24-23. 100-Flower Thistle. Palace Master Jingyun spat out a mouthful of blood and retreated. 100-Flower Thistle. The moment she spat out blood, Palace Mistress Jingyun immediately used her strongest move, 100-Flower Thistle. Palace Master Jingyun's divine sword was called 100-Flower Sword. There were hundreds of flower souls engraved on it, and each flower soul was very powerful. Palace Master Jingyun could mobilize the power of the flower souls at any time. 100-Flower Thistle was a move that could mobilize the power of hundreds of flower souls at the same time. It could instantly unleash a terrifying move. All kinds of flower souls poured out of the 100-Flower Sword, forming a boundless sea of flowers. All kinds of flower souls formed a colorful sea of flowers. The massive sea of flowers was constantly expanding. The bone sword that had been shot out was sent flying by the sea of flowers. As for the Rakshasa King, he was involuntarily pushed back by the powerful energy. His eyes revealed a look of astonishment. The sea of flowers grew bigger and bigger, and it started to engulf the evil spirits in the surroundings. Large numbers of evil spirits died, as if they were being cleaned up. Rakshasa King's heart ached when he saw this. Helpless, Rakshasa King could only order the evil spirit army to retreat to avoid the power of 100-Flower Thistle. Even Rakshasa King was afraid and did not continue to move forward. Even Rakshasa King felt the power of 100-Flower Thistle was terrifying. If he forced his way into the sea of flowers, he would definitely be severely injured. Rakshasa King would definitely not do that. This human female cultivator is quite skilled. Wait until the power of this move gradually recedes. I'll capture this human female cultivator and slowly enjoy her delicious flesh and the essence of the illusory sky bridge. Rakshasa King licked his lips. Instead, his desire for Palace Master Jingyun became even more fervent. The sea of flowers did not last for long. It gradually withered and scattered. Rakshasa King snorted coldly and slashed the bone sword on the sea of flowers. A powerful sword light poured out like water and scattered the sea of flowers. However, what made Rakshasa King frown was that he did not see Palace Master Jingyun's figure after the sea of flowers receded. Bastard, I've been tricked. That cunning human female cultivator used that move just now mainly to deceive me. Rakshasa King's face was gloomy as he quickly figured out the details of the situation. However, he quickly calmed down. He knew that Palace Master Jingyun must have suffered heavy injuries after fighting with him. As long as he completely occupied the Divine Pill's secret realm, whether it was Palace Master Jingyun or that Jun, they would all be his. Continue marching. After the Rakshasa King finished speaking, he led the army of evil spirits and continued heading south. As for the other cultivators in the Divine Pill's secret realm, they were about to suffer a great misfortune. At the edge of the southwestern region, there was an extremely large wilderness. At the end of this wilderness stood a tall tower. The appearance of this tower was very similar to the Pill Tower in the outside world. There was a golden flame burning at the top of the tower. If one did not look carefully, they would have mistaken it for a pill tower at first glance. However, the cultivators in the Divine Pill's secret realm knew that this tower was not the Pill Tower, but the exit that was connected to the Pill Tower. Of course, since the entire Divine Pill's secret realm was so big, It was impossible for there to be only one exit. Other than this exit, there were two other exits in the Divine Pill's secret realm. When Juan arrived near the tower on the space-time wheel, he immediately noticed that something was wrong. He landed the space-time wheel in a remote valley. Jun gently helped Yao Xiangjuan up and got off the space-time wheel. Then he put her away. At this moment, Yao Xiangjuan's condition was much better than before. However, her beautiful face was still pale, as if she had not recovered from a serious illness. Thank you. You saved me again this time. Yao Xiangjuan gritted her teeth as she looked at Zhuan with her beautiful eyes. She said with a complicated expression. Zhuan smiled and said, "You and I are friends, and I happened to be near you. When I saw that you were in danger, I couldn't just stand by and watch you die." When Yao Xiangjuan saw that Zhuan did not have any other intentions, she sighed in her heart. She was slightly disappointed, but soon she pulled herself together and looked at the tower in front of her. "Are you planning to leave the Divine Pill's secret realm?" "Yes, now that all the evil spirits in the Death Valley have come out, and even the terrifying Luosha King has broken out of the seal, the Divine Pill's secret realm is no longer a safe place. Staying here will only lead to disaster," Thun said seriously. "That's really the Luosha King, but I've heard from my master that the Luosha King in the Divine Pill's secret realm was sealed by a Dao-confirming expert. Generally speaking, it's impossible to break the seal, so how did the Luosha King come out?" Yao Xiangjuan couldn't help but ask in surprise. She knew quite a lot about the Divine Pill's secret realm, and she also knew a little about the origin of the Death Valley. When she saw the giant before, she had already suspected that it was the Luosha King. However, when she remembered what her master had told her, she became hesitant. Now that Zhuan had directly pointed out that it was the Luosha King, that was why she was so surprised. That is indeed the Luosha King. As for how he broke out of the seal, I have no idea. Moreover, this Luosha King is very powerful. Although it seems like he is only at the life-enlightening realm, this Luosha King has been sealed for too long, so his strength has decreased. As long as we give the Luosha King enough time, his strength will continue to increase. At that time, we won't be able to fight against him. Therefore, leaving the Divine Pill's secret realm now and completely sealing it is the best way to do so, Zhuan said in a deep voice. Yao Xiangjuan nodded her head, but her beautiful eyes were filled with worry. "My martial aunt is still in the Divine Pill's secret realm. Do you want me to inform her?" "You can inform her. If she can come, it will be of great help to me." Zhuan nodded his head and said, "Palace Master Jing Yun was a life-enlightening realm expert. If he had the help of such an expert, it would be much easier for Zhuan to escape from the Divine Pill's secret realm." Although the exit was right in front of him, Yun was not stupid. Previously, he had already thought about it. If he was the Luosha King, what would be the first thing he would do? That's right, the first thing the Luosha King would think of was to immediately seal the exit and prevent the cultivators who entered from leaving in advance. Moreover, when Zhuan had just landed, he had paid special attention to the tower. Indeed, he had sharply discovered that the surface of the tower had been tampered with by someone. Perhaps, there was a very powerful restriction on the surface of the tower. Zhuan had even discovered a very familiar aura from the restriction on the surface of the tower. With just a glance, he had recognized this aura. It was the aura of the Luosha King. "I have already informed my martial aunt, but she didn't reply to me. Are we going to enter the tower and leave this secret realm now?" Yao Xiangjuan asked Zhuan. "Yes, follow me. We will first explore the tower. After we understand the situation, we will leave this place." Zhuan nodded his head and signaled Yao Xiangjuan to wait here. After that, he flew towards the tower in front of them. Zhuan was very cautious. Although the tower looked calm on the surface, he could smell that something was wrong. Chapter 24-24. Death or Whoosh. The moment Zhuan reached the bottom of the tower, the soil beneath his feet suddenly flipped open, and a pair of green hands grabbed Zhuan's ankles and pulled him down. Zhuan clearly did not expect someone to suddenly attack him from below, so he was caught off guard. Fortunately, Zhuan's reaction was astonishing. He pulled out the king's sword and slashed at the pair of green hands. The pair of green hands sensed the danger of the king's sword, and with a sneer, they retracted their hands and drilled back into the ground. The king's sword's attack missed. Human cultivator, your cultivation is not high, but your reaction is not bad. A devilish voice slowly came from behind Jun, and then a graceful figure broke out of the ground behind him. Jun turned around to look at the graceful figure, and his eyes narrowed. The figure in front of him was 10 feet tall, and its appearance was extremely similar to the Rakshasa that Juon met before. However, that Rakshasa was a male, and the one in front of Juon was a female. Rakshasa? Juon's eyes were gloomy. The female Rakshasa looked at the white-clothed youth in front of her in astonishment. She was clearly surprised that the white-clothed youth could recognize her. When Juon rescued Yao Xiangjuan from the Rakshasa king, the female Rakshasa and the other 2 Rakshasas had already left according to the Rakshasa king's orders, and headed to the 3 exits to seal them. Therefore, the female Rakshasa did not recognize Juon. Juon realized that something was wrong. He had not seen this female Rakshasa beside the Rakshasa king before, which meant that she had already left the Rakshasa king, or was sent out by the Rakshasa king. Juon looked at the tower behind him, and his eyes gradually became gloomy. He did not look carefully before, but now that he looked, he realized that there was a powerful seal on the tower's surface. This seal had the evil aura of the Rakshasa king, and it was obviously the Rakshasa king's power that was causing trouble. "How do you know who I am?" The female Rakshasa chuckled, then slowly walked toward Juon, the killing intent in her eyes almost tangible. Juon looked at the female Rakshasa coldly and said, "Get lost. Otherwise, you won't be able to leave later." The female Rakshasa before him was even weaker than the Rakshasa he had encountered before. If it was the Juon of that time, he might have been afraid of this female Rakshasa, but now that he had obtained LV Haoyan's mysterious life lotus, Yun was not afraid of any existence below the enlightened life realm. In fact, Juon did not even need to use the mysterious life lotus to deal with the female Luosha. His space-time ability alone was enough to make her suffer. The female Rakshasa looked as if she had just heard the funniest joke in the world. She looked at Juon as if he was an idiot and said coldly, "You told me to get lost. An ant-like human like you?" Juon was too lazy to talk nonsense with this female Rakshasa. The sense of urgency in his heart was getting stronger and stronger. According to the Pill Emperor Turtle, the peak strength of the Rakshasa king was actually at the life and death extremities. Due to the seal, its strength had dropped to the enlightened life realm. However, Juon noticed that after the Rakshasa king absorbed the flesh and blood of the cultivators, its strength was constantly recovering. He was now afraid that after the Rakshasa king swept through the entire divine pill's secret realm and slaughtered all the cultivators, its strength would probably recover by a lot. At that time, Juon did not need to think to know that he would be no match for the Rakshasa king. Therefore, he had to leave this place as soon as possible. Thinking of this, Juon directly took out the phagocytosis and attacked the female Rakshasa. The moment the phagocytosis was taken out, it grew from the size of a palm to 100 feet in size. It was as big as a mountain and mercilessly attacked the female Rakshasa. The female Raksasa's body was very tough. She took a step forward and punched the phagocytosis. However, after the phagocytosis had fused with 2 Dao fruits, its power was extraordinary. Not only was the female Rakshasa unable to send the phagocytosis flying, but she also suffered a powerful backlash and could not help but take a few steps back. The female Rakshasa looked at the phagocytosis in front of her in surprise. Only now did she realize that the white-clothed youth in front of her did not seem to be an ordinary cultivator. Just as the female Rakshasa was surprised by the power of the phagocytosis, Jun took a step forward with his right foot. The king's sword in his hand mercilessly used the Big Bang technique, distorting and collapsing the space-time around the female Rakshasa. With the help of the powerful destructive power of the space-time distortion, the female Rakshasa screamed and spat out a mouthful of blood. She was sent flying backward. The female Rakshasa's eyes were filled with fear. She had just awakened from the seal and her strength was much weaker than when she was at her peak. She knew that she was no match for this white-clothed youth, so she immediately wanted to retreat. The instant the female Rakshasa was about to flee, Jun appeared behind her as if he could predict her future. Then, he slashed out with the king's sword again. At this moment, a gray energy emerged on the surface of the king's sword. This gray energy carried the aura of death. It's the aura of death. Don't kill me. The instant the king's sword wrapped in gray energy slashed at the female Rakshasa, she screamed again and again. Her eyes were filled with fear as she stared at the gray energy on the surface of the king's sword. Zhuowen's expression changed. He exerted force with his right hand and the king's sword mercilessly stood on the female Rakshasa's body. Then, the female Rakshasa's tough body was cut in half by the king's sword as if it was tofu. What's going on? Zhuowen looked at the female Rakshasa who was easily killed with a suspicious look. Is it because of the aura of death covering the surface of the king's sword? Zhuowen looked at the gray energy on the surface of the king's sword. This gray energy was the aura of death that he had obtained in the bone world and refined with the power of faith. Originally, the aura of death was refined into a thin needle by Zhuowen and was hidden in Zhuowen's divine soul. But just now, when he attacked the female Rakshasa, this strand of aura of death in his divine soul unexpectedly swept out on its own and covered the surface of the king's sword. The energy of the aura of death is increasing? Zhuowen looked at the gray energy on the surface of the king's sword again and found that this gray energy was much more powerful than before. Now, Zhuowen realized that the increase of the aura of death might have an inseparable relationship with killing a Rakshasa. In other words, after killing a Rakshasa, the energy of the aura of death increased. Moreover, this aura of death attached to the surface of the king's sword and returned to Zhuowen's divine soul without being controlled by him. This made Zhuowen somewhat helpless. It seems that this aura of death has a very strong restraining effect on Rakshasa and evil spirits. If I use the aura of death to deal with the Rakshasa king, will it be twice the result with half the effort? Zhuowen muttered in a low voice. Hearing this, Yao Xiangjuan's eyes lit up. Naturally, she agreed. In the outside world, the surroundings of the Pill Tower were still bustling with noise and excitement. The elders of the Pill Tower had all gathered on the 10th level of the Pill Tower. The black-robed Zhuowen sat cross-legged in front of the alchemy fire. He opened his eyes and looked at the 8 elders of the Pill Tower who had gathered in front of him. At this moment, the alchemy fire behind him was burning fiercely. It was full of vitality and no longer looked as dispirited as it did at the beginning. During this period of time, the black-robed Zhuowen had almost tirelessly refined the calamity crystal lode. His strength had grown extremely fast. Of course, the interval between the calamity had also been greatly shortened. Previously, before his main body entered the divine pill's secret realm, the black-robed Zhuowen had already passed through the 9th calamity. Now, half a year had passed. The black-robed Zhuowen had broken through again and again with the help of the abundant calamity crystal lode. Yesterday, he had passed through the 14th calamity. During this period of time, the alchemy fire had obtained many benefits because of the black-robed Zhuowen passing through the calamity. It had absorbed a large amount of energy from the calamity. The reason why the Zhuowen could pass through the calamity so unscrupulously was naturally because of the alchemy fire. The alchemy fire's existence had absorbed most of the energy from the calamity, which made it much easier for the black-robed Zhuowen to pass through the calamity. If it were in the past, the Zhuowen would definitely not dare to cultivate so quickly. After all, every calamity was an extremely troublesome problem for him. However, now that he had the alchemy fire, he obviously did not have to worry about this. Moreover, the Zhuowen also found that the alchemy fire seemed to have developed a sense of dependence on him after absorbing the energy from the calamity. It almost never left his body. As long as the black-robed Zhuowen left the Pill Tower now, the alchemy fire would probably take the initiative to leave with him. At this moment, the alchemy fire leaped from the huge brazier and landed lightly on the black-robed Zhuowen's shoulder. It curled up on the black-robed Zhuowen's shoulder like a kitten, looking extremely lazy. When the 8 elders saw this scene, the corners of their eyes twitched. Naturally, they were very happy that the alchemy fire was rejuvenated. However, now that the alchemy fire was relying on the black-robed Zhuowen so much, this was not what they wanted to see. The alchemy fire was the foundation of the Pill Tower, and the black-robed Zhuan was not a member of the Pill Tower. Now that the alchemy fire was relying on Zhuan so much, what if this Zhuan left the Pill Tower in the future? If the alchemy fire forced itself to follow Zhuan, this would be a huge loss to the Pill Tower. In the end, the second elder broke the silence. "Shuo, why have you gathered us here?" the second elder asked with a smile. The black-robed Zhuan's eyes were solemn as he said in a deep voice, "Something big has happened in the Divine Pill's secret land." As soon as the words came out, the surrounding elders were surprised. Among them, the seventh elder sneered and said, "How can something big happen in the Divine Pill's secret land? This is not the first time that the Divine Pill's secret land has opened. It has always been fine in the past, and this time is no exception." Zhuan looked at the seventh elder indifferently. He knew that the seventh elder was unhappy with what he had done before, so he was also unhappy with Zhuan. At this moment, it was not strange for him to refute Zhuan. The second elder frowned and waved his hand to interrupt the seventh elder. Then, he looked at Zhuan and asked sincerely, "Shuo, what happened?" The second elder knew that the black-robed young man in front of him was only Zhuan's clone, and Zhuan's original body had entered the Divine Pill's secret land. Regarding the Divine Pill's secret land, Zhuan would not speak carelessly. Zhuan nodded and immediately told the second elder everything that had happened in the Divine Pill's secret land. When Zhuan finished, the second elder and the other 8 elders were all shocked. The seventh elder stood up and looked at Zhuan in an extremely unfriendly manner and said, "You are not talking nonsense, are you? How could the Rakshasa king break the seal? And how could the evil spirit army in the Death Valley leave the Death Valley without permission?" The other elders were also discussing spiritedly, and their words were full of disbelief. The Divine Pill's secret land had existed for a very long time, and the Pill Tower had also recorded that the terrifying Rakshasa king was sealed in the core of the Divine Pill's secret land. The second elder spoke again, "Shuo, you shouldn't have brought this up without any reason, right?" Zhuan nodded his head and said, "I need elders' help. I need my clone to go in and help my true body. Moreover, I don't believe that the Divine Dan Mystic Realm doesn't have an additional exit. I need to know where it is." "Who do you think you are? You actually want us to provide an additional exit? Don't even think about it. It's impossible for there to be an additional exit. Even if there was, I wouldn't give it to you." The surrounding elders all looked at Zhuan with unfriendly gazes. They all started to talk at once. "Enough, all of you can leave now. I will deal with this matter." The second elder shouted in a low voice. The other 7 elders immediately shut their mouths. They looked at the second elder with hesitation on their faces. However, they obviously didn't dare to disobey the second elder's order. They all stood up and left the 10th floor of the Pill Tower. After a short while, only Zhuan and the second elder were left on the 10th floor. "Shuo, if what you said is true, this matter is very serious. Do you have any suggestions?" The second elder asked in a low voice. "Save the cultivators who survived in the Divine Dan Mystic Realm, then seal the Divine Dan Mystic Realm." Zhuan said. The second elder nodded and said, "I also agree with this point. There is indeed an additional exit. This jade slip records that additional exit." After saying that, the second elder threw a crystal-clear jade slip to Zhuan and continued, "You can inform the rest of the people in the Divine Dan Mystic Realm about the exit. Don't let the Luosha king know about it. Otherwise, it will be difficult to deal with it." "I know. Thank you, second elder." Zhuan cupped his fists and said, "Also, how do I go in now?" The second elder smiled and looked at the alchemy fire on Zhuan's shoulder. He said, "You need the little guy on your shoulder to enter the Divine Dan Mystic Realm. This time, I will also enter the Divine Dan Mystic Realm with you." Zhuan was stunned. He looked at the alchemy fire on his shoulder. The alchemy fire also looked at Zhuan lazily. "Little guy, can you help me open the entrance to the Divine Dan Mystic Realm again? Please," Zhuan said with a smile. Just when the second elder was about to remind him that he shouldn't do that, the alchemy fire on Zhuan's shoulder yawned and jumped up, turning into a flaming door in front of him. The second elder looked at this scene with a stiff expression. When he opened the Divine Dan Mystic Realm, It took him a lot of effort to do so. However, Yuan only needed to say a word, and the alchemy fire immediately opened it for him. The difference in treatment was too big. Second elder, let's go in together. Yuan didn't care about what the second elder was thinking. After he entered the flaming door, he waved his hand at the second elder. The second elder shrugged his shoulders helplessly and followed him. At this moment, under the divine Dan Mystic Realm Tower, Zhuowen's original body slowly stood up. He raised his head and looked at the top of the tower. There, two figures slowly descended. They were the black-robed Zhuowen and the second elder from the Pill Tower. Second elder, you have a clone? Yao Xiangjuan looked up and muttered to herself in surprise. The second elder and the black-robed Zhuowen landed beside Zhuowen. The two of them nodded at Yao Xiangjuan, then looked at Zhuowen's original body. Second elder, the evil spirit army is coming from the north. They are advancing towards the south. I hope you can help me inform those cultivators who don't know about this and ask them to gather at the entrance. Zhuowen's original body looked at the second elder and said. The second elder nodded. This matter wasn't difficult for him. Zhuo Xiaoyu, what about you? The second elder looked at Zhuowen and asked. I'll go and hold back the evil spirit army and Luo Sha King. I'll buy you some time. Zhuowen said calmly. As soon as these words came out, the second elder and Yao Xiangjuan sucked in a breath of cold air. Yao Xiangjuan immediately objected. You can't go. You should know better than me how terrifying Luo Sha King and the evil spirit army are. If you go, you'll just be throwing your life away. You can't go. The second elder also advised, you should also come with us to inform the other cultivators. When the time comes, we'll save as many as we can. You shouldn't take the risk yourself. Zhuowen looked at the second elder and Yao Xiangjuan's attitude. He knew that it was useless for him to explain himself. He nodded and said, Then I'll also go with you to inform the other cultivators. After reaching an agreement, Zhuowen and the others started to move. Chapter 24-27. Opening the exit. Actually, there was no need for Zhuowen to inform them. Most of the cultivators in the Divine Pill Secret Realm already knew that the army of evil spirits was coming, and that the powerful Rakshasa King was among them. Many of the cultivators were in a mess, and they didn't know what to do. However, the news that Zhuowen and the second elder brought not only about the army of evil spirits and the Rakshasa King, but also about the new exit. Some of the cultivators had already tried the 3 exits, but they were all guarded by a Rakshasa. Even if they managed to break through the Rakshasa's defense, the teleportation arrays at the 3 exits were all destroyed, and it was impossible for them to leave the Divine Pill Secret Realm. All of a sudden, most of the cultivators in the Divine Pill Secret Realm fell into a panic. The news about the exit brought by Zhuowen and the second elder was their last hope. They didn't care if it was true or not, but they chose to believe it, because they had no other choice. Soon, Zhuowen and the second elder had gathered many cultivators, and they basically told these cultivators the location of the exit, and asked them to wait there. As they kept moving towards the north, the distance between Zhuowen and the army of evil spirits was getting closer and closer. Brother Zhua, my martial aunt is nearby, and she seems to be severely injured. Yao Xiangjuan suddenly said. Zhuowen and the second elder stopped, and Zhuowen said in a deep voice, Where is Palace Master Jingyun now? I can sense martial aunt's aura, she is nearby. Yao Xiangjuan said with uncertainty. Zhuowen nodded and floated in the air. He spread out his terrifying divine sense, and carefully inspected everything around him. As she is there. Zhuowen stomped his right foot, and he landed in a remote valley. This valley was more like a crack in the mountain. It was very narrow, and could only fit 3 people at most. In this crack, a woman with a veil was lying quietly. Martial aunt. Yao Xiangjuan quickly said. Perhaps she heard Yao Xiangjuan's voice. The woman struggled for a while, and finally woke up. Xiangjuan, that's great, you're still here. Palace Master Jingyun's face was pale, but there was a smile on her face. Yao Xiangjuan blamed herself a little. She knew that she was the reason why Palace Mistress Jingyun became like this. Palace Master Jingyun must have heard about what had happened to her from Zhu Rui. Then, out of concern, she went to look for Luosha King. In this divine pill secret realm, only the Rakshasa King could seriously injure an expert like Palace Master Jingyun. In order to escape from Rakshasa King's evil clutches, Palace Master Jingyun had used her strongest move, 100 Flower Thistle. Although she had escaped from Rakshasa King's evil clutches, the side effects of this move had worsened her injuries. Before she fainted, Palace Mistress Jingyun hid in this remote mountain crevice. She only woke up when Yao Xiangjuan found her. "Yin, hurry up and leave. The evil spirit army is coming." The second elder's urgent voice suddenly rang out. At that moment, the second elder was floating above the mountain peak. His face was pale and bloodless. He saw the countless densely packed black dots in the north. He knew that they were all the evil spirit army. Their numbers were simply beyond his expectations. Especially the Rakshasa King that was following behind the evil spirit army. It gave the second elder a strong sense of crisis. Zhuan nodded and immediately hugged Palace Mistress Jingyun, who was hiding in the mountain crevice. He could see that Palace Mistress Jingyun's injuries were very serious. It would be difficult for her to even move now. "Don't touch me." Palace Mistress Jingyun suddenly spoke up. Her cheeks under the veil were flushed red. She had cultivated for countless years, but she had never had any physical contact with a man. Now that Zhuowen had come forward to hug her, she naturally rejected him subconsciously. Even though she knew that this was a special situation, she was still not used to it. "Now is not the time for you. If you don't want to die, don't talk nonsense." Zhuan was too lazy to pay attention to Palace Mistress Jingyun. Now that the situation was so critical, how could he care so much? He hugged Palace Mistress Jingyun's delicate body. Palace Mistress Jingyun looked very voluptuous, but she was very light. Zhuan hugged her as if he was hugging a feather. The moment Zhuan hugged Palace Mistress Jingyun, Zhuan could clearly feel her delicate body trembling. Zhuan thought that Palace Mistress Jingyun would fiercely scold him. Who knew that she would just curl up in his arms and close her eyes without saying a word. "Hurry up and leave." The second elder's urgent voice rang out again. "Human, I didn't think that you would dare to appear in front of me. Today I will kill you." A furious roar rang out, followed by an earth-shaking tremor. The Rakshasa King, who was on his back, saw Zhuowen and suddenly sped up, rushing toward him. The moment Zhuan hugged Palace Mistress Jingyun, he summoned the space-time wheel. After everyone entered the space-time wheel, he immediately activated it. Just as the Rakshasa King arrived, the space-time wheel turned into a stream of light and disappeared. Obviously, the Rakshasa King did not plan to give up. It chased after him step by step. Unfortunately, the space-time wheel had the enhancement of the space-time hollow space, so the Rakshasa King was still shaken off. Despicable human. When Zhuowen's space-time wheel completely disappeared, the Rakshasa King stopped and his eyes were filled with rage. "Speed up." The Rakshasa King looked at the army of evil spirits behind him and shouted coldly. Those evil spirits were all terrified, and their speed increased by a lot. The southernmost part of the divine pill secret realm was an extremely flat green plain. Occasionally, there were a few sparse hills standing there, and it looked quite peaceful. At this moment, there were thousands of cultivators gathered in this plain, densely packed together. However, the atmosphere among this group of cultivators was extremely unusual. All of them were lifeless and filled with despair. There were at least tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of cultivators who entered the divine pill secret realm this time. However, there were only a few thousand cultivators left. It could be seen that most of the cultivators were killed by the army of evil spirits. "He's here. The second elder is here. We're saved." When the space-time wheel stopped in this plane, all of the cultivators looked at the second elder on the space-time wheel with fervent eyes. A group of people gathered below the space-time wheel and asked where the exit was. "Everyone, don't panic. The exit is here. However, it might take some time, so don't panic," the second elder said loudly. As soon as the second elder said that, the people below immediately quieted down. "Second elder, how long will it take for the additional exit to open?" One asked. The second elder nodded and said, "Actually, the exit needs to be opened at the junction of the two. The original 3 exits were all at the junction, so it was easier to open them. However, this place is a bit far from the junction, so it's not that easy. Moreover, we need to rely on alchemy fire." "How long will it take?" Zhuowen asked. "It should take about half an hour," the second elder said. Zhuowen frowned. He didn't expect it to take so long to open the additional exit. However, he didn't have time to think about it. He could only ask the second elder to open the exit now. Chapter 24-28. An army approaches. After the second elder put away the pill fire, his gaze became much more cautious. He did not waste any time and rushed to the center of the plain with the pill fire in his hand. At this moment, the pill fire still looked lazy. If it were not for the black-clothed Zhuowen's order, the pill fire would not even want to leave his side. The second elder formed hand seals with both hands at an extremely fast speed. His hands turned into shadows in the air. As the second elder continuously formed hand seals, the pill fire in front of him surged and turned into a terrifying flame tide that rushed into the sky. The terrifying flame emitted a terrifying heat, causing many of the surrounding cultivators to feel uncomfortable. However, the discomfort quickly disappeared. It was obvious that the second elder had done it on purpose. The second elder sat cross-legged in the flame tide. His hands were still forming hand seals and hand seals. The flame tide also surged and became even more terrifying. Zhuowen looked at the flame tide that rushed into the sky. He knew that the second elder planned to use the pill fire to completely open the exit to the outside world. This place was the closest to the border, so the success rate was the highest. As time passed, 2/3 of the 1 hour that the second elder said had passed. Boom, boom. Suddenly, dense and chaotic footsteps came from the north like thunder, attracting the attention of all the cultivators on the plain. The moment everyone looked at the end of the plain, fear appeared on their faces. At the end of the plain, a black mass of evil spirits was surging over like a black cloud pressing down on the ground. In the terrifying evil spirit army, a figure that was hundreds of meters tall strode over aggressively. This tall figure was none other than the Rakshasa king. No wonder I didn't see anyone anywhere else. It turns out that all of you ants are here. It just so happens that you've given me a chance to catch all of you in one fell swoop. The Rakshasa king's eyes were filled with a bloodthirsty light. But soon, the Rakshasa king noticed the flame tide that rushed into the sky. His body could not help but freeze. His eyes instantly revealed a furious expression as he growled, "Pill fire! It's actually a pill fire! I didn't expect to see a pill fire. Today, I'm going to destroy this pill fire." Perhaps it had sensed the Devil King's fury, but the wave of flames that soared into the sky also let out a shrill cry. It seemed as though it wanted to break free from the second elder's control and rush toward the Devil King. The second elder, who was sitting cross-legged on the fiery tide, had cold sweat dripping down his forehead. He quickly formed a seal with his hands and cursed in a low voice, "What's going on? Why is this pill fire acting so strangely after encountering that Rakshasa king? Damn it, I can't control it anymore." The black-clothed Zhuowen also noticed the abnormality of the alchemy fire. He took a step forward and placed his right hand on the flames, calming them down. The second elder let out a sigh of relief and looked at Zhuowen gratefully. Then he continued to seriously control the alchemy fire to open the exit. "What should we do? Why hasn't the exit opened yet? The evil spirit army is about to arrive. It's over, it's over. With such a huge army of evil spirits, it's impossible for us to resist." In the crowd, uproars, clamors, and helplessness constantly intertwined. Everyone showed a look of despair at the same time. At this moment, Yao Xiangjuan supported Palace Master Jing Yun and stood in the middle of the crowd. Her beautiful eyes looked worriedly at the countless evil spirit army. "Xiangjuan, let me go first." Palace Master Jing Yun struggled to get up, but Yao Xiangjuan held her down and said, "Martial Ant, what are you doing? Your injuries are too serious now. Don't move." At this moment, Zhu Rui and more than a dozen other disciples of the Desire Palace surrounded Palace Master Jing Yun and advised her not to move with concern. Palace Master Jing Yun said calmly, "Among this group of cultivators, my cultivation is the highest. Except for me, the others can't stop the Devil King at all. As long as I use 100 Flowers Thistle again, I can block the Devil King and the Evil Spirit Army for a while. It's enough to buy time for the second elder to open the exit." Yao Xiangjuan shouted decisively, "No. The price of 100 Flowers Thistle is too high. Martial Ant, you've already used it before. If you use it again, I'm afraid you'll hurt your origin. You may even lose your life." "Absolutely not." Zhu Rui and the others also persuaded Palace Master Jing Yun. Palace Master Jing Yun shook her head and said, "Xiangjuan, if I don't do it, everyone here will die. Although I'm not a lofty person, I know the pros and cons. Whether I do it or not, the result will be the same for me. But it's different for you. You can escape." Palace Master Jing Yun's voice was also heard by the others. The surrounding cultivators all looked guilty. Many of them also cupped their hands and thanked Palace Master Jing Yun. Palace Master Jing Yun looked coldly at the surrounding cultivators and said indifferently, "You don't have to thank me. I didn't do it for you, but for the disciples of the Desire Palace. It has nothing to do with you." Once Palace Master Jing Yun said this, the surrounding cultivators fell silent again. However, no one refuted her. There were thousands of cultivators here, but most of them didn't have high cultivation. Although they were at the 8 steps Void Sky realm, the gap between them and the Rakshasa King was too big. They didn't have the courage to fight against the Rakshasa King. The only one who could fight against the Rakshasa King was Palace Master Jing Yun, who was at the Life Enlightenment realm. Originally, many cultivators wanted to ask Palace Master Jing Yun to do it. But now that Palace Master Jing Yun took the initiative, they fell silent. Yao Xiangjuan and the others still wanted to persuade her. Unfortunately, Palace Master Jing Yun had already made up her mind. It was useless for them to persuade her. Palace Master Jing Yun forcibly supported her delicate body and took out the 100-flower sword. She took a deep breath and looked at the countless evil spirit army and the huge Rakshasa King with a complicated expression. She revealed a trace of self-mockery. She didn't expect that she might die here today. Just as Palace Master Jing Yun was letting her imagination run wild, a large palm stretched out and grabbed her lily-white hand that was holding the 100-flower sword. Palace Master Jing Yun's delicate body trembled. She swung her lily-white hand and subconsciously wanted to shake off the large palm. However, she was too weak right now and couldn't shake it off. "Can you still fight in your current state?" A deep and hoarse voice sounded beside Palace Master Jing Yun. Palace Master Jing Yun frowned. Her divine sense had already detected that the owner of this large hand was Yun. She subconsciously withdrew her lily-white hand. Her cheeks under the veil blushed a little. Ever since she started cultivating, Palace Master Jing Yun had never touched a man. However, this young man in front of her had touched her twice. Chapter 24-29. Fighting an army alone. Do you think there's another way? Palace Master Jing Yun asked coldly. Zhuan nodded and said indifferently, "Of course there is." "What's that?" Palace Master Jing Yun asked subconsciously. Zhuan raised his head and looked at the army of evil spirits in the distance. He said with a smile, "I'll pin down Rakshasa King. I'll also find a way to attract the attention of the army of evil spirits. You guys wait for an opportunity and leave as soon as the exit opens." As soon as Zhuan said that, the cultivators in the surroundings were in an uproar. However, the uproar didn't last for long. Many cultivators had heard the rumor about Zhuan killing Lu Haotian, so they didn't raise any objections. "Zhun, you can't do it either. You'll die if you go there." Yao Xiangjuan was the first to object. Palace Master Jing Yun also said subconsciously, "Yes, you can't do it either." However, Palace Master Jing Yun seemed to realize that she had said something wrong. Her words were full of concern for Zhuan, which made her blush, and she couldn't help but fall silent. Zhuan didn't notice the inappropriateness in Palace Master Jing Yun's words. He was very clear that if no one stepped forward to stop Rakshasa King and the army of evil spirits, then everyone here would suffer a calamity. Of course, Palace Master Jingyun was a life-enlightening realm expert and had the highest cultivation among all of them. Originally, she should have taken action. However, Palace Master Jingyun's injuries were too serious. Taking action now was simply courting death. Although Zhuowen's strength was inferior to Palace Master Jingyun's, Zhuowen's clone had already entered. The clone had survived 14 wind disasters and possessed the bloodline of the King Devourer. The clone's strength was even more terrifying than the main body. At the very least, the clone could still fight against a life-enlightening realm expert. This was also the reason why Zhuowen dared to face Rakshasa King. In addition, Zhuowen's main body also had the death energy that could restrain evil spirits and Rakshasa Kings. If he wanted to increase the power of the death chi, then he would have to kill creatures like evil spirits. Of course, this was only Zhuowen's secondary objective. His main objective was naturally to stop the Rakshasa King and the evil spirit army. It should be known that no matter how heaven-defying Zhuowen was, it would still be a little difficult for him to face the countless evil spirit army. He naturally had a mental struggle when he chose to face the evil spirit army alone. Other than me, there's no one else to choose. You guys stay here, I'll go over. Zhuowen's voice was filled with an unquestionable tone. Then he took out the space-time wheel and stepped on it. He turned into a stream of light and disappeared. The plane was extremely vast. The cultivators were at the very end of the plane while the army of evil spirits was at the very front. It would take at least half a day to traverse the entire plane, so Zhuowen planned to use the space-time wheel to reach the evil spirit army ahead of time. Zhuowen. Yao Xiangjuan stomped her foot and also planned to follow, but was stopped by Palace Master Jingyun. Xiangjuan, don't be rash. Zhuowen is not an impulsive person, so he must have thought carefully before making this decision, Palace Master Jingyun said calmly. Yao Xiangjuan fell silent. Although Palace Master Jingyun was right, this time, Zhuowen's actions seemed to be impulsive in her opinion. I hope Zhuowen can really stop the Rakshasa King. Zhu Rui murmured in a low voice, with a hint of worry in her beautiful eyes. Many cultivators in the crowd also sighed. Although Zhuowen stepped forward bravely, they were not too happy. After all, Zhuowen's strength was very strong, but there was still a gap between him and Palace Master Jingyun. As for the rumor that Zhuowen killed LV Haoyan, most of the cultivators here knew that Zhuowen killed with a borrowed knife, and there was an element of luck in it. But now, would Zhuowen have the same luck when facing the Rakshasa King as he did when facing LV Haoyan? It might be a little difficult. The space-time wheel's speed was too fast. In less than 10 breaths, it had arrived in front of the evil spirit army. Zhuowen's original body, dressed in white, suddenly jumped out of the space-time wheel. The space-time wheel was stored in his spirit ring, and he landed on the flat ground. Don't. In front of him, a dense crowd of evil spirits rushed madly, their eyes full of ferocity and greed. Zhuowen held the king's sword in his hand, which was covered with gray energy. It was the death chi. Perhaps it had sensed the aura of the evil spirits, but the gray energy seemed to be abnormally active. You're courting death. Following behind the evil spirit army, the Rakshasa King naturally noticed Zhuowen's figure standing in front of him, and the corner of his mouth revealed a mocking smile. The white-clothed young man in front of him used the candle of death to seal him again for the first time, and saved his prey from his hands for the second time, so the Rakshasa King's killing intent toward Zhuowen was extremely strong. However, the Rakshasa King did not intend to take action now. Although he hated the white-clothed young man, Zhuowen's cultivation was not high. There was no need for him to take action, as the evil spirit army could tear this arrogant guy to pieces. Boom, boom, boom. The evil spirit running at the front revealed a ferocious expression and suddenly jumped up. It actually jumped a distance of 100 meters and was the first to arrive in front of Zhuowen. The evil spirit bared its fangs and brandished its claws. With a roar, its sharp claws tore through the air and suddenly blasted toward Zhuowen's head. Just from the terrifying whistling sound set off by the sharp claws, it could be seen that this claw was enough to smash Zhuowen's head into pieces. Zhuowen sneered and raised the king's sword in his hand, slamming it onto the evil spirit's body. The strange thing was that the evil spirit's hard body immediately disintegrated and shattered into pieces the moment it came into contact with the king's sword. "It's so powerful," Yuan was stunned. He who was holding the king's sword felt it the most. He only casually swung it, but the moment it hit the evil spirit, it was as if he had hit the air without any hindrance. Obviously, the death aura's restraint on evil spirits was somewhat beyond Yuan's expectations. Moreover, Yuan also found that the moment the evil spirit died to the king's sword, there was immediately a gray aura that merged into the king's sword, imperceptibly strengthening the death aura's energy. Yuan's small action did not attract the Rakshasa king's attention. The moment Yuan killed the first evil spirit, countless evil spirits behind him swarmed over. The terrifying tide instantly covered Yuan's entire body and drowned him. Looking at this scene, the smile on the corner of the Rakshasa king's mouth became even wider. He knew that Yuan was dead for sure. Many cultivators on the other side of the plain were moved. Many of them smiled bitterly in their hearts, thinking that Yuan was really putting on a brave front. He went to restrain the Rakshasa king alone. If he could not even stop the evil spirit army, how could he restrain the Rakshasa king? Was he not courting death? Chapter 24:30. Although I am alone, I will press on. Bang, 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 bang. A terrifying power suddenly erupted from the frontmost encirclement of the evil spirit army. Following that, many evil spirits were sent flying like trash. Among the countless evil spirits that were sent flying, a figure in fluttering white clothes suddenly leapt out. He held an emperor sword in his right hand, and his body was surrounded by 3 divine swords and a huge meteor hammer. These 4 divine artifacts were not ordinary. They were the Thunderfire Sword, Blood Immortal Sword, 9 Extinction Divine Rune Sword, and Sky-Destroying Meteor. They were all secondary heaven-breaking divine artifacts. The 4 divine artifacts revolved around Yuan, forming a powerful defensive barrier that blocked off the countless evil spirits that were charging at him. Moreover, Yuan was even more powerful. Holding the Emperor's sword, he directly charged into the evil spirit army. The Emperor's sword in his hand was extremely fast, and only a faint afterimage of the Emperor's sword could be seen. Moreover, every time the Emperor's sword was swung, it could instantly blast all the evil spirits that it passed through into powder. Under the Emperor's sword, these evil spirits were as weak as tofu. Just like that, Yuan, 1 man and 1 sword, shuttled through the evil spirit army as if he was entering an unstoppable state. All the evil spirits were basically unable to withstand a single strike from Yuan's Emperor sword. As for the attacks from the surrounding evil spirits, Yuan simply ignored them. With the defense of the 4 secondary heaven-breaking divine artifacts, he basically did not need to take the initiative to defend. He only needed to focus on attacking. As a result, everyone was astonished to see this scene. Within the densely packed evil spirit army, a white-clothed figure went against the flow. Everywhere he went, the evil spirits were all killed and disappeared. And Yuan's bold action naturally aroused the anger of countless evil spirits. Countless evil spirits leapt up and attacked Yuan like rain. The evil spirits at the side did not let go of any openings and crowded around Yuan from all directions. All of a sudden, the pressure on Yuan became much greater. The 4 secondary heaven-cleaving divine artifacts were not airtight. As more and more evil spirits gathered, gaps would appear in the defenses. Then, the attacks of the evil spirits would land on Yuan's body. However, Yuan's body had been soaked in the blood of the true dragon. Although his body wasn't as tough as Devour King, it had reached Devour's level. Therefore, when the evil spirits attacked him, Yuan didn't pay much attention to them. Although I am alone, I will go. Yuan let out a long laugh. Amidst the countless evil spirits, he slaughtered them to the extreme. He also discovered that the death chi gathered in the king's sword was becoming stronger and stronger, more and more exuberant, as if something was awakening from the death chi. At the end of the plain, many cultivators could not help but feel their blood boiling when they saw this scene. Especially when Yuan said, "Even though I'm alone, I'll still go forward." The cultivators all felt guilty, as well as a surge of passion that they hadn't felt in a long time. Even though I am alone, I will still go forward. Palace Master Jing Yun murmured in a low voice. Although her eyes were slightly closed, her divine sense was firmly fixed on Zhuowen's body. Especially when she discovered that this figure, who didn't look strong, had rushed into the army of evil spirits. Her heart was completely throbbing. What kind of man could have such breadth of mind and heart? Yao Xiangjuan looked at Zhuowen's figure in a daze. Her beautiful eyes had long since turned misty, and she kept repeating Zhuowen's words. The scene that happened today was something that this group of cultivators would never forget. It was too unforgettable. Rakshasa King's face was gloomy. He finally realized that something was wrong. His gaze was fixed on the king's sword in Zhuowen's hand. To be more precise, he was staring at the gray energy that covered the surface of the king's sword. Death Chi. Rakshasa King finally recognized the true face of the gray energy, and he was shocked. He also knew that Death Chi was an energy that could restrain half-dead creatures like them, but it was very rare. Even in Death Valley, Death Chi had never appeared, but this white-clothed young man in front of him actually had this strange energy. The Rakshasa King attacked. He knew that no matter how many evil spirits there were, they couldn't do anything to Zhuon, who had Death Chi. Thus, he was the only one who could make a move. Moreover, Rakshasa King was also worried that the Death Chi on Zhuowen's body would strengthen as he killed the evil spirits. At that time, it would reach a level that could threaten him. One must know that the Death Chi not only restrained evil spirits, but also the Rakshasa King himself. Of course, the Death Chi on Zhuowen's body wasn't particularly strong at the moment, so it wasn't enough to threaten the Rakshasa King. However, as the Death Chi continued to strengthen, it would definitely reach a level that could threaten the Rakshasa King. Thus, the Rakshasa King would never let this happen. A huge palm the size of a small mountain descended from the sky and heavily smashed down in front of Zhuon. Countless strong winds swept up by the palm caused all the evil spirits within 100 miles to be torn into powder. Zhuon felt the terrifying strong winds and suddenly raised his head to look at the terrifying palm that was getting closer and closer. His elegant long hair suddenly fluttered behind him, but his gaze became extremely solemn. Zhuowen's right hand tightened on the king's sword, then he leaped up and slashed at the palm. Bang! The huge palm and the king's sword collided, causing the space within 1,000 miles to collapse. Due to the intense energy of the collision, the collapsed space was suffused with strange multicolored colors. A figure suddenly flew out, and the huge palm also stopped in midair, trembling violently. Zhuon suddenly twisted his waist and firmly stopped in midair with the help of the force from his waist. His gaze was extremely solemn as he looked at the huge palm in front of him, as well as the owner of the palm, the Rakshasa King. Zhuon wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He didn't feel depressed because he was repelled, but his gaze became brighter and brighter. Just now, when the king's sword stood on the Rakshasa King's palm, he clearly felt that the king's sword, which was covered with Death Chi, had indeed caused quite a lot of damage to the Rakshasa King's palm. Moreover, this was only because the Death Chi on his king's sword wasn't strong enough. If it was stronger, Zhuon was confident that he could cut off the Rakshasa King's palm. The Rakshasa King's expression was rather ugly. He had also discovered the huge wound on his palm. Although the wound was not serious to him, he knew that the wound was not caused by Zhuowen's power, but the Death Aura's power. Thinking of this, the Rakshasa King's killing intent toward Zhuon became even more terrifying. Die for me again! The Rakshasa King roared angrily and pulled out the huge bone sword on his back. He fiercely cut through the void and blasted it toward Zhuon. The Rakshasa King, who was holding the bone sword, was much stronger than before. This attack was also far more terrifying than the previous palm. Seeing the Rakshasa King pull out the bone sword, Palace Master Jing Yun knew that things weren't good. Her face became extremely pale. Back then, she was forced to use the 100-flower thistle because of the Rakshasa King's bone sword. Only then was she able to block the Rakshasa King, who was holding the bone sword, and escape. However, she also suffered an extremely serious injury because of this. Be careful, Lily. You can't take this bone sword head-on. Palace Master Jing Yun completely let go of the restraint in her heart and shouted in Zhuowen's direction. Zhuan stood silently on the spot and didn't move an inch. His appearance made Palace Master Jingyun even more anxious. Many cultivators on the spot were also sweating for Zhuan. Devouring King. Zhuan stood against the wind. With a wave of his sleeve, the black-clothed Zhuan slowly appeared beside him. Roar! Chapter 2431. Bone Sword. The moment the black-clothed Zhuan revealed his true body, Devouring King, Zhuan's real body waved his sleeve, sending out the phagocytosis and handing it over to Devouring King. Due to the limitations of the body, the phagocytosis could only unleash its full power in the hands of Devouring King. Although Zhuan's real body could also use the phagocytosis, he could only unleash less than 50% of its power. The phagocytosis flew along with the wind. While it was flying, it expanded to 100 zhang tall and landed in front of Devouring King. Devouring King's huge palm caught the phagocytosis in the center of his palm. Then he threw it out, welcoming the huge bone sword that was falling from the sky. Rumble! A thunderous explosion resounded as the bone sword and the phagocytosis collided. The shockwaves created by the collision were like a storm, exploding in the void. The clouds that had originally shrouded the sky all exploded the moment the ripples came into contact with them. They scattered one after another, exposing thousands of miles of blue sky. The evil spirits behind the Rakshasa King all showed fear. They stopped advancing and retreated instead, avoiding the terrifying shockwaves of energy. Rakshasa King's eyes shrank as he looked at Devouring King, who was glowing with golden light. Devouring King? Although Rakshasa King was born in the Death Valley and was created by Di Danhua, he had never left the Divine Pellet's secret domain for so many years. However, when he was with Di Danhua, his knowledge wasn't short. Of course, he knew the famous king of the Devouring clan. Zhuan, you actually have a clone with the Devouring King's bloodline? Isn't that too amazing? At this moment, the Pill Emperor Turtle was floating beside Zhuowen. Looking at Devour King, whose body size was not inferior to Luosha King's, it exclaimed in surprise. Zhuan didn't care about the Pill Emperor Turtle's astonishment. He took a step forward with his right foot and charged into the army of evil spirits like a gust of wind. After knowing that the evil spirits could increase the power of the Death Chi, how could Zhuan let go of such an opportunity? Although the army of evil spirits was huge, as long as Zhuan defended well, he could enter and exit this terrifying army of evil spirits without any problems. Moreover, Rakshasa King was being held back by Devouring King. Zhuan naturally didn't have any worries. Rakshasa King also noticed Zhuan's actions. His eyes were blazing with fire. After knowing that Zhuan had the Death Chi, the energy that he was afraid of, Rakshasa King really wanted to get rid of Zhuan as soon as possible. Luosha King snorted coldly. Her right wrist suddenly twisted, and the bone sword shot towards Devourer King in a tricky movement. Of course, Devouring King wasn't someone to be trifled with. The devouring seal in his hand was like the heavens were helping him. It released a terrifying power, blocking the bone sword in front of him. However, if one observed carefully, Devouring King was still at a disadvantage in the battle against Rakshasa King. This was because every time the bone sword and phagocytosis clashed, Devouring King would unconsciously take a few steps back while Rakshasa King wouldn't move an inch. Therefore, Rakshasa King was still stronger than Devouring King. Of course, this was all thanks to the Devourer King's powerful body. Although the Rakshasa King's bone sword was very powerful and a portion of the force would be transmitted to the Devourer King's body, the Devourer King's body was strong enough to withstand the force. If it had been an ordinary cultivator, Rakshasa King would have been seriously injured by these attacks. After Devouring King was forced to take a few steps back, Rakshasa King clenched the 5 fingers of his left hand into a fist and smashed Devouring King's shoulder. Bang! Clearly, Devouring King didn't expect Rakshasa King to have such a move. His shoulder exploded into a cloud of blood mist. Devouring King was also forced to retreat. Rakshasa King didn't chase after Devouring King. Instead, he changed his direction and rushed toward Zhuowen's main body, who was still in the army of evil spirits. Be careful behind you. Palace Master Jingyun hastily reminded. Even without Palace Master Jing Yun's reminder, Zhou already knew what was going on. After all, his senses were connected to the Devourer King's. The moment Luosha King repelled the Devourer King, he had already sensed that something was wrong. Human, I didn't expect you to have the help of such a powerful creature like Devouring King. However, this Devouring King is obviously not an adult yet. He's not my opponent at all. In my opinion, these tricks of yours are just petty tricks. In the face of absolute strength, petty tricks are just digging your own grave. Rakshasa King's cold voice resounded. Then, a huge palm descended from the sky and smashed toward Zhuowen's head. Zhuowen took a deep breath. His gaze was extremely cold. The king's sword in his hand spun around, and the terrifying death chi turned into a terrifying storm. In an instant, thousands of evil spirits in the surroundings dissipated in the death chi storm. Then, the death chi storm collided with Rakshasa King's palm. Bang! When the palm smashed into the death chi storm, it instantly cut off half of the storm. However, the storm was extremely tenacious. Although half of the storm was destroyed, the other half of the storm continued to grow and multiply, blocking the palm in midair. Moreover, the death chi's energy was indeed very effective against Rakshasa King. Zhuowen could clearly feel that the place where Rakshasa King's palm came into contact with the death chi storm was withering at a speed visible to the naked eye. Rakshasa King's face turned ugly. He had also noticed the terror of the death chi. He quickly retracted his palm. However, the moment he retracted his palm, the death chi storm followed him like maggots in a corpse. It chased after Rakshasa King's palm. Rakshasa King's gaze was gloomy. The bone sword in his right hand smashed into the death chi storm in front of him, instantly shattering the death chi storm that was chasing after him. At the same time, Rakshasa King quickly changed his sword stance. In an instant he slashed out dozens of times in the death chi storm. Under the countless sword strikes, the huge death chi storm completely collapsed and was annihilated into nothingness. The moment the death chi storm dissipated, Yun also spat out a mouthful of blood due to the backlash. He retreated repeatedly and gloomily looked at the huge Rakshasa King in front of him. Die! Rakshasa King's gaze was cold and emotionless. He pinched the bone sword in his hand and then suddenly swung it down. As if riding the wind and breaking the waves, it heavily smashed onto Zhuowen's head. Not good. At the end of the plain, Palace Master Jing Yun and Yao Xiangjuan, who were watching the battle, cried out in unison. The crowd behind them was in an uproar. Obviously, they could see the terrifying power of Rakshasa King's sword. They were worried that Zhuowen would not be able to block this sword without his death chi. It's over. Zhuowen's death chi has been broken. What should we do now? Rakshasa King's attack is too terrifying. I'm afraid that even a true life enlightenment stage powerhouse would have to pay a certain price to block this attack. Chapter 2432. Opening the Zhuowen sighed softly. With a wave of his sleeve, he took out a sparkling and translucent lotus flower from his spiritual ring. The lotus flower slowly floated above Zhuowen's head. Then, an endless energy burst out from the lotus flower. Rumble! The huge bone sword came one after another and heavily smashed onto the everlasting ice lotus. Then, the ground started to shake violently. 1/3 of the entire plain started to crack. A terrifying gale spread out in all directions between the Rakshasa King and Zhuowen. Puchi! Zhuowen spat out a mouthful of blood. He grabbed the everlasting ice lotus and quickly fled. The Rakshasa King's pupils shrank as he looked at the fleeing Zhuowen. He never thought that this guy would be able to block his all-out attack. Just as the Rakshasa King was about to give chase, the Devourer King's roar came from behind him. Then, a terrifying sonic boom swept over. The Rakshasa King knew that the Devourer King was coming. Helpless, he could only turn around and deal with the Devourer King. At this moment, the Devourer King was extremely crazy. It was as though he was fighting with his life on the line. Zhuowen knew that this was the only way to restrain the Rakshasa King. Otherwise, the Rakshasa King would definitely take advantage of the time when the Devourer King was retreating to attack him. Zhuowen landed in the army of evil spirits. He held the everlasting ice lotus in his right hand. Mysterious life divine energy revolved around his body. The Rakshasa king's attack just now had caused him quite a bit of injury. However, the mysterious life divine power was extremely miraculous. It had actually drilled into his body and healed most of the injuries on his body. Although Zhuan had landed in the army of evil spirits, the strange thing was that the ferocious evil spirits actually avoided Zhuan. Not a single evil spirit dared to approach him. Pairs of eyes filled with fear were fixed on Zhuan. To be more precise, they were staring at the king's sword in Zhuan's hand. After Zhuan displayed his invincible might, these evil spirits also realized how terrifying the deathly aura in Zhuan's king's sword was. As long as their evil spirits came into contact with the death chi, they would immediately be annihilated. This death aura was the natural enemy and nemesis of evil spirits. Although evil spirits did not have much intelligence, they still had an innate fear. This was especially so when they faced the death chi, which was their natural enemy. If it were not for the presence of the Devil King, these evil spirits would have fled long ago. To be able to gather here in the face of the aura of death, it was clear that these evil spirits feared the Devil King more than the aura of death. However, even if these evil spirits were gathered here, they would lose their will to fight in the face of the death aura. He used the method of exchanging life for life to firmly entangle the Devil King. The Devil King also had a headache when facing the Devourer King. This Devourer King's combination with the phagocytosis was indeed very difficult to deal with. At the end of the plane, thousands of cultivators heaved a sigh of relief. They knew that Zhuan had completely restrained the Devil King and the evil spirit army. They were all saved. Everyone was extremely grateful to Zhuan. Rumble. Suddenly, the flame tide that soared into the sky went against the flow and finally moved. A huge hole was blasted open in the sky by the flame tide. The inside of the hole was incomparably deep. The second elder, who was sitting cross-legged in the flame tide, suddenly opened his eyes. Then the surrounding flame tide was completely retracted and turned into a formless alchemy fire. Second elder, is the exit open? The surrounding cultivators' eyes instantly fell on the second elder. They were all filled with anticipation. The second elder looked at the surrounding gazes and nodded. He pointed at the hole in the sky and said, "That hole is the exit. Everyone hurry up and go in." "All right, where's Zhuan?" As he spoke, the second elder looked around. However, he did not see Zhuan's figure in the crowd. A strange look appeared in his eyes. Second elder, Lord Zhuo went to face the evil spirit army and the Devil King alone. He bought us some time. The surrounding cultivators looked at each other. When they mentioned Zhuan, their eyes were filled with reverence. Unknowingly, they started to address Zhuan as Lord Zhuo. "What? Why didn't you stop him? Isn't that Zhuan courting death? He actually faced the evil spirit army and the Devil King alone?" The second elder was shocked and said anxiously, "Second elder, you don't have to worry. Lord Zhuo is very powerful. He really did pin down the Devil King and the evil spirit army by himself." A female cultivator in the crowd said with admiration. The second elder looked at the crowd. Everyone was filled with reverence, but his heart was filled with doubt. He knew Zhuan's strength very well. He did not think that Zhuan could pin down the evil spirit army and the Devil King alone. Chapter 24:33. Immortal Sword Bones. The exit is open. Why aren't you leaving? The second elder asked in surprise when he realized that none of the cultivators had left through the exit. "We want to wait for Master Zhuo. This time, Master Zhuo has single-handedly held back the evil spirit army and the Rakshasa king for us. If we leave first, we'll feel bad." The second elder smiled and said, "You can leave first. Zhuan is doing this so that everyone can leave this place. If you don't leave, you won't be accepting Zhuan's kindness. If you're really grateful to Zhuan, you can wait at the Pill Pagoda Square after you leave. Then, you can thank Zhuan together." The others nodded when they heard the second elder's words. They felt that the second elder's words were reasonable. "Then we won't be unreasonable. After we leave this place, we'll definitely thank Master Zhuo properly." A burly man with a full beard laughed in an extremely forthright manner. He cupped his fists towards the second elder and took the lead to rush into the hole. With the burly man taking the lead, the others also cupped their fists at the second elder and left the place. After a while, the thousands of cultivators had all left the place. The only ones who remained were the second elder, Palace Master Jing Yun, Yao Xiangjuan, and the others. Palace Master Jing Yun, why haven't you left yet? The second elder walked to Palace Master Jing Yun and asked curiously. Palace Master Jing Yun nodded at the second elder and said indifferently, "I'll wait a little longer." The second elder did not say anything. He just looked at Zhuan, who was still fighting in front of them, and sighed. Zhuan is definitely the most talented junior I've ever seen. In the Six Desires heavenly domain, I've never seen such a brilliant genius like him. Palace Mistress Jing Yun didn't retort. She just watched quietly. What the second elder said was true. Zhuowen's strength had long surpassed the younger generation. He was close to those old monsters who had cultivated for countless years. In their Six Desires Palace, except for the six palace masters, there was probably no one else who could suppress Yun. That Zhuowen's white robe fluttered as he slashed out with the king's sword in his hand. Instantly, countless sword shadows formed into a terrifying wind. With him as the center, the wind spread out in all directions. Moreover, the wind was getting stronger and stronger. Wherever the sword shadow passed, the evil spirits were all turned into fine powder, annihilated into nothingness. At this moment, to death to this. At this moment, the king's sword had completely turned gray. On the surface of the sword, complex and dense gray patterns were engraved. These were the energy of the death aura. It could be said that after the battle with the evil spirit, the king's sword had already become one with the death aura. These gray patterns were actually the manifestation of the death aura's energy. The fusion of the death chi made the Emperor Sword's power surpass the secondary heaven-breaking divine artifact in one fell swoop. It was probably infinitely close to a Tao-proving divine artifact. Zhuan felt that the king's sword was much stronger than the phagocytosis that Devourer King wielded. Moreover, the death aura was too effective against the Rakshasa King. It was much more effective against the Rakshasa King than phagocytosis. With that thought in mind, Zhuan shifted his attention back to Rakshasa King, who was still fighting the Devourer King. At this moment, Rakshasa King was almost unharmed, but Devourer King was wounded in many places. Many of his scales were damaged, and cherry-red blood was flowing out. Clearly, the gap between Devouring King and Rakshasa King was not small. If it wasn't for Devouring King's powerful bloodline and terrifying physical body, he would have been defeated long ago. However, it was also because of Devouring King's powerful physical body that he was able to entangle Rakshasa King for so long. Rakshasa King's eyes were filled with impatience. The gap between him and Devouring King was huge. It was just that Devouring King relied on his phagocytosis and powerful physical body to entangle Rakshasa King for so long. However, Rakshasa King soon felt a strong sense of danger coming from behind him. Slash! A cold shout was heard. Then, Rakshasa King turned around and saw Zhuan standing behind him. His white robe fluttered in the wind. Zhuan slashed out with his king's sword, and the gray energy turned into a sword ray that was 100 zhang long. This sword ray was completely formed by the death aura, and it gave Rakshasa King a strong sense of danger. Rakshasa King roared and punched Devourer King with his left fist, sending him flying 100 meters away. Then, Rakshasa King grasped the hilt of the bone sword with his right hand and swung it up, slamming it against the sword ray. Bang! 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 The sword ray and the bone sword collided. Rakshasa King was shocked to find that the moment his bone sword came into contact with the sword ray, it was gradually dispersing. Rakshasa King kept retreating as he swung his bone sword. The powerful sword ray smashed against the sword ray, but it was like a clay ox entering the sea. Rakshasa King's heart sank. He knew that the death aura on Zhuowen's body was so strong that it could threaten his life. Just this sword ray alone was enough to put him in such a difficult situation. While Rakshasa King was busy dealing with the death aura sword ray, Devouring King took the opportunity to rush over. The phagocytosis in his hand smashed heavily on Rakshasa King's back. Rakshasa King put all his attention on the death aura. How could he expect Devouring King to launch a sneak attack? He was immediately hit by the phagocytosis. With a groan, he staggered and almost fell to the ground. Bastard! Rakshasa King was enraged. He slashed out one last time, shattering the death aura sword ray. Then he locked onto Devouring King. With a twist of his right hand, the bone sword started to spin. Immortal sword bone. Rakshasa King fell to the ground. Then he stabbed the bone sword into the ground with both hands. Instantly, countless bone spikes shot up from the ground, forming a terrifying forest of bones that wrapped around Devouring King. Devouring King couldn't dodge in time. Several bone spikes pierced into his body. However, he reacted quickly. He immediately unleashed the phagocytosis to protect his surroundings, barely blocking Rakshasa King's attack. Zhuowen's original body had an ugly expression. He no longer held back and released all the death aura he had collected. Suddenly, the tip of the king's sword emitted a gray energy. In an instant, his king's sword extended from 3 feet to dozens of feet long. Bang! 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 Zhuowen fell to the end of the forest of bones. Then he quickly shuttled through the forest of bones. In an instant he had shuttled from one end to the other. The king's sword in his hand danced rapidly. Chapter 24-34. The mysterious Ma Yujie, the bone forest collapsed, and Devourer King was released. The moment Zhuowen rushed out of the bone forest, he swung the king's sword behind him. The king's sword turned into a gray light and disappeared in the blink of an eye, shooting toward Rakshasa King. Rakshasa King looked at the king's sword that was shooting toward him. His pupils shrank into needles, and his scalp went numb. Boom! Rakshasa King held the bone sword and slashed out, heavily slashing at the gray light that was about to reach him. Suddenly, a gust of wind whistled, blowing Rakshasa King's messy hair. Rakshasa King was shocked to find that the moment the king's sword landed on the bone sword, the gray death energy was like maggots in a tarsal bone, enveloping the entire bone sword. Rakshasa King hurriedly let go of the bone sword and retreated dozens of steps. He watched helplessly as his bone sword was gradually nibbled away by the death energy in front of him. Rakshasa King, every dog has its day. I didn't expect the death energy to restrain you so much. An indifferent voice sounded. Then, in the midst of the death energy, a figure rushed out like a windmill. Like a god, this figure rushed toward Rakshasa King. Rakshasa King took a closer look. This figure was none other than Zhuowen. The moment the death energy in the king's sword corroded the bone sword, Zhuowen had already arrived. Holding the king's sword in his right hand, he rushed toward Rakshasa King without slowing down. If it was any other time, Zhuowen would definitely not dare to face Rakshasa King directly. But now, he had such a large amount of death energy, and Rakshasa King was restrained by the death energy. He could only use 10% of his strength. Zhuowen was not afraid of the current Rakshasa King. Rakshasa King's gaze was gloomy. Then, under Zhuowen's astonished gaze, he turned around and fled. Zhuowen hadn't expected Rakshasa King to actually run away. One had to know that Rakshasa King's initial impression of Rakshasa King was simply lofty. Now that Rakshasa King had run away, the lofty impression that Rakshasa King had left Zhuowen was instantly shattered. One had to admit that Rakshasa King's speed was very fast. In just an instant he was already 1,000 miles away. Zhuowen snorted coldly. How could he let Rakshasa King go so easily? Zhuowen waved his sleeve and summoned the space-time wheel. He stepped onto it and activated the space-time wheel. In an instant, Zhuowen turned into a stream of light and caught up with Luosha King. Clang! The sound of a sword cutting through the air could be heard. The Rakshasa King, who had been fleeing in front, took a deep breath and turned around abruptly. His right fist punched toward Zhuowen's chest without warning. Zhuowen had not expected the Rakshasa King to suddenly attack. For a moment, the Rakshasa King took advantage of a gap and punched him in the chest. Puchi! Zhuowen spat out a mouthful of blood. He felt as if his internal organs were being crushed. However, Zhuowen was also unyielding. He forcibly withstood this punch, and the Emperor's sword in his hand fiercely chopped down on the fist. The Emperor's sword passed through the fist without any hindrance and cut off the Rakshasa king's iron-like fist. Then, Yun endured the pain in his body. He controlled the Emperor's sword with his powerful divine sense and suddenly chopped down on the Rakshasa king's head. The Rakshasa king did not seem to feel any pain. He simply ignored the fist that was chopped down. He rolled on the ground and barely dodged the Emperor's sword that was chopping down. However, the Emperor's sword's speed was still very fast. It still cut off the Rakshasa king's legs below the knees. The Rakshasa king's recovery ability was still very strong. However, he found that his legs and fists that were chopped off by the death aura could not be recovered in a short time. If he wanted to recover, he had to get rid of the death aura that entered his wounds. At this moment, the Rakshasa king was really afraid. He was not afraid of Yun, but of the powerful death aura. As long as he touched the death aura, it could quickly erode his flesh and bones. Puchi. Zhuan spat out a mouthful of blood again and fell to the ground. His face was extremely pale. Zhuan's cultivation base was only at the peak of the Void Sky's 7th step. After taking a punch from the Rakshasa king, the vitality in his body was almost obliterated. Fortunately, Yun had the Heavenly Domain's Starry Sky essence. After taking a few drops of it, his injuries were suppressed and did not continue to worsen. But even so, the injuries in his body were not optimistic. The Rakshasa king's attack contained a terrifying corpse poison. Even the Heavenly Domain's Starry Sky essence could not detoxify this corpse poison. It could only temporarily suppress it. Die! Zhuan looked at the Rakshasa king crawling in front of him. The killing intent in his eyes was extremely strong. Under the control of his divine sense, the Emperor's sword once again swept out and ruthlessly pierced the Rakshasa king's heart. The Rakshasa king's eyes revealed a look of despair. He knew that he was about to die under the Emperor's sword. But the Rakshasa king was really unwilling. He had just escaped, but he was going to die like this. Moreover, he was going to die in the hands of an ant of the Void Sky 7th step. There was too much unwillingness in his heart. However, just as the Emperor's sword was about to pierce the Rakshasa king's heart, a soul banner a few feet long appeared in front of the Rakshasa king and blocked the Emperor's sword. The Emperor's sword was bounced away. The soul banner instantly expanded to a size of 100 feet and sucked in the Rakshasa king's huge body. Then, the soul banner turned into a stream of light and disappeared on the spot. It swept into an extremely high mountain at the entrance of the plain. Zhuan raised his head and happened to meet Ma Yujia's eyes on the mountain peak. Ma Yujia gave Zhuan a faint smile before disappearing from the mountain peak. Ma Yujia, Zhuan muttered in a low voice. He frowned slightly. He was very surprised. Why did Ma Yujia want to save the Rakshasa king? Could it be that the Rakshasa king breaking the seal really has something to do with Ma Yujia? Zhuan's gaze became serious. He remembered that when he was at the altar in the center of the Death Valley, he saw Ma Yujia appear outside the Candle of Death. Although Ma Yujia had tried to break the seal and failed in the end, Zhuan had felt that something was wrong. As for what exactly was wrong, he hadn't been able to tell at that time. Now, Zhuan had figured it out. Ma Yujia's goal was probably not to break the seal. At that time, Ma Yujia's real goal was to awaken the Rakshasa king and then cooperate with him to break the seal of the Candle of Death. Thinking of this, Zhuan bitterly smiled. He was even more afraid of Ma Yujia in his heart. Zhuan, are you okay? An old voice sounded. Then, several figures rushed over from behind. The one in the lead was the second elder in a gray robe. The second elder rushed to Zhuan's side. He immediately took out a divine elixir and handed it to Zhuan. Zhuan looked at the divine elixir and found that it was a level 9 divine elixir. He couldn't help but feel that the second elder was really generous. He pushed the divine elixir back to the second elder. He had a lot of divine elixirs on him. Moreover, he also had the fusion divine elixirs refined by the Pill Emperor Turtle. Many of them were more powerful than the divine elixir that the second elder took out. Chapter 2435. Blood Soul Carriage. Seeing the second elder's confused expression, Zhuan explained, "Second elder, my injuries are not serious. The main problem is that I was poisoned by the Rakshasa king's corpse poison. This corpse poison is not something that can be cured by a divine pill. I have to force it out myself. Hearing this, the second elder finally understood and said awkwardly, I was too rash. Jun, are you all right? Palace Master Jing Yun and Yao Xiangjuan also arrived and asked at the same time. However, Palace Master Jing Yun's tone was cold. On the contrary, Yao Xiangjuan's voice was filled with concern. Jun smiled and said, I'm fine. The Rakshasa king was. Palace Master Jing Yun was silent for a moment and suddenly said, Yes, it was taken away by someone I know. Zhuowen said coldly. Palace Master Jing Yun nodded. Since Zhuowen had said so much, he probably didn't want to reveal this person's identity. Otherwise, he would definitely reveal this person's identity. Since that person was able to save the Rakshasa king, he shouldn't be weak. However, the Rakshasa king is not that easy to tame. In the end, he might harm others and himself. Palace Master Jing Yun said. Zhuowen nodded slightly. Palace Master Jing Yun was reminding him that if he were to meet that person in the future, it would be best to completely eliminate the Rakshasa king. Now, let's leave this place first and seal the seal. Then, we will seal the exit. I think the person who saved the Luosha king has already saved the Luosha king, so he should be prepared to be locked in this divine pill secret realm by us. The second elder said indifferently. Zhuowen and the others did not have any objections. However, Yuan was worried that the divine pill secret realm might not be able to trap Ma Yujie. One should know that Ma Yujie was a level 9 divine array master. He had never seen through Ma Yujie's true strength. However, Yuan did not say it out loud. After Zhuowen, the second elder, and the others left the hole, it slowly closed and finally disappeared from the plane. When the hole disappeared, a figure appeared on the plains that had been turned into ruins due to the great battle. Ma Yujie silently looked at the closed hole with a smile on his face. Then, he waved his sleeve and took out the soul banner. The soul banner stood in the wind and turned into a huge cloth that covered the sky. A huge figure fell from the soul banner. It was the Rakshasa king who was missing both of his legs. It's you. Why did you save me? The Rakshasa king looked at Ma Yujie and asked. You don't need to pretend, Ma Yujie said with his hands behind his back. The Rakshasa king's eyes turned gloomy as he said coldly, You want me to be your servant? Sorry, even if I choose death, I will not choose to become someone else's servant. Ma Yujie nodded, not surprised by Rakshasa king's answer. As the king of Death Valley, Rakshasa king was naturally arrogant. Even its creator, the Emperor Pillfire, refused to submit. How could it submit to him so easily? However, Ma Yujie had enough patience. He was Yasfeiwen was. Although the Rakshasa king's strength was only around the life enlightenment realm, he knew that the Rakshasa king's true strength was in the life and death realm. It was just that it had been sealed for too long and its strength had fallen. As long as the Rakshasa king was given enough resources, it would not be difficult for it to recover to its peak. Ma Yujie naturally valued the Rakshasa king's strength at its peak. Moreover, the Rakshasa king was stronger than ordinary life and death realm experts. If he could successfully subdue it, Ma Yujie would undoubtedly have an extremely powerful fighter. Then I'll slowly think about it in the candle of death. I have plenty of time anyway. Ma Yujie sneered and waved his sleeve. Immediately, 9,999 candle of death formed a ring and enveloped the Rakshasa king. Then, a terrifying black flame covered the Rakshasa king's body. The Rakshasa king's eyes were filled with pain. The candle of death's flame was the same as the death aura. However, the Rakshasa king did not beg for mercy. Instead, it stared at Ma Yujie with hatred. Ma Yujie smiled faintly. He did not care about the Rakshasa king's hatred. With a wave of his sleeve, the Rakshasa king, who was enveloped by the candle of death, was sent back into the soul banner. It would not be easy to make the Rakshasa king submit. Therefore, Ma Yujie planned to let this guy suffer a little to rub off his arrogance. When the time came, he would let him out and enlighten him. The exit is not the only way to leave the divine pill's secret realm. There are other ways. Ma Yujie muttered in a low voice. Then, he took out a rusty blood saber from his spirit ring. This blood saber did not have a hilt or a scabbard. It only had a body full of cracks. It looked like a broken piece of junk. Of course, if one looked carefully, the blood-red color on the surface of the saber was as clear as a blood-red diamond. If it were not for the numerous cracks on the saber, it could be called a piece of art. It was extremely gorgeous. Traceless blood, oh traceless blood. They say that one cannot leave a mark on their target. In the end, all of them end up with a body full of cracks. Even the blood-soul carriage has become like this. How ironic. Ma Yujie looked at the hiltless blood saber in his hand. The corner of his mouth was full of mockery. After saying that, Ma Yujie held the blood saber, which looked like it would shatter at any moment, and gently slashed it in the air. The originally ordinary blood saber suddenly emitted a terrifying Taoist rhyme. This Taoist rhyme was much more powerful than the 4 Taoist rhymes on Zhuowen's body. The terrifying Taoist rhyme accompanied the blood-red saber light as it soared into the sky. Suddenly, the sky of the Divine Pill Secret Realm was dyed blood-red. The surviving creatures in the Divine Pill Secret Realm could not help but look up at the sky. Looking at the sky that was dyed blood-red by the saber light, their eyes were filled with fear. There were even many creatures with low cultivation bases. The moment the saber light dyed the sky red, they all lay down on the ground, their bodies trembling. With one saber, everything knelt down, and the sky was torn apart. The terrifying saber light cut through the sky, instantly creating a huge crack in the sky. With just one saber strike, the second elder had to spend half an hour to open up the exit, which had taken him half an hour to open up using his alchemic fire. Moreover, the area and diameter of the exit created by the saber light were much larger than the one created by the second elder. It should be known that this saber light almost tore the entire sky of the Divine Pill Secret Realm apart. From this, one could see how terrifying this saber light was. If Zhuowen and the others were here, they would definitely be dumbfounded. After all, just a saber light had such terrifying power. What was the origin of this broken blood saber? There was no pride in Ma Yujie's eyes. The only thing that existed in the depths of his eyes was sadness. Then he put away the blood saber, turned into a streamer, and disappeared into the crack in the sky. Chapter 2436. Arranging for the Pill Emperor Turtle, Master Zhua, thank you for saving our lives. If it weren't for Master Zhua, we would have died in the Divine Pill Secret Realm. On the square, thousands of cultivators respectfully cupped their hands and thanked Zhu. Among them, a forthright man took off his spirit ring without hesitation and handed it to Zhuan, saying, Master Zhua, from now on, you are my great benefactor. Although my spirit ring doesn't have many valuable things, it is everything I have. Take it as my gift of thanks. Seeing this man's action, the crowd also took off their spirit rings and offered them to Zhuan. Zhuan was stunned, and with a wave of his sleeve, he returned the spirit rings to the cultivators and said, Everyone, there is no need to be so polite. This is actually what I should do. If I didn't step forward at that time, we would all have suffered. I was actually saving myself. Everyone can't help but feel guilty. Seeing Zhuan return the spirit rings, the cultivators on the square all showed their respect. If some of them were just thanking Zhuowen for the sake of formalities, now they were sincerely thanking him. After Zhuowen sent off the cultivators who thanked him, Palace Master Jingyun brought Yao Xiangjuan and the others to Zhuowen. Zhuowen, I also want to thank you. Palace Master Jingyun looked at Zhuowen seriously. Zhuowen smiled, then looked at Palace Master Jingyun and the others and said, Are you planning to leave the Pill Furnace Star Field? Yao Xiangjuan nodded and said, Yes. My master needs me and Martial Uncle to go back for an important matter, so we can't stay here for long. Zhuan, you have saved me and Martial Uncle many times, so we are really grateful. As she spoke, Yao Xiangjuan hesitated for a moment before she said, If you don't mind, why don't you come with us to the Six Desires Palace? You've saved us many times, yet we don't have anything to repay you. Zhuowen frowned. He wanted to go to the Six Desires Palace to take a look. After all, he wanted to find clues about Moyan of Wushang. However, Yao Xiangjuan and Palace Master Jingyun knew many of his secrets. He was afraid that he would be walking into a trap if he went to the Six Desires Palace. Palace Master Jing Yun was more experienced. She immediately noticed Zhuowen's abnormality and said with a smile, "Saving a life is like giving birth to a parent. Jun, I will not mention your matter to anyone in the Six Desires Palace. Furthermore, I can see that your cultivation has reached the peak of Void Sky 7th step. Our Six Desires Palace has the Six Desires Heavenly Lake. Cultivators who soak in the Six Desires Heavenly Lake will be able to instantly reach perfection in their current realms and help them break through their current bottlenecks. It will also allow them to experience the scenes of the 7 emotions and 6 desires, improving their state of mind and cleansing their soul." When Zhuan heard this, he was moved. From the serious expressions of Palace Master Jing Yun and Yao Xiangjuan, he could tell that the 6 Desires Heavenly Lake that Palace Master Jing Yun mentioned was definitely something extraordinary. It's the 6 Desires Heavenly Lake. I remember that your 6 Desires Palace's 6 Desires Heavenly Lake is not open to the public. Even the disciples of the 6 Desires Palace have to pass an extremely strict examination before they are qualified to enter the 6 Desires Heavenly Lake, right? The second elder, who was standing beside Zhuowen, said in surprise. "Second elder, between my life and the 6 Desires Heavenly Lake, which do you think is more important?" Palace Master Jing Yun asked indifferently. The second elder smiled embarrassedly and did not say anything else. "I do plan to go to the 6 Desires Palace. However, I have some matters to attend to here. Can we leave together tomorrow?" Zhuowen asked. Palace Master Jing Yun nodded and said, "Sure. If you want to go to the 6 Desires Palace, Zhuowen, we can wait for you until tomorrow." Zhuowen cupped his fists and thanked her. Then, he followed the second elder up to the 10th level of the Pill Pagoda. Only Zhuowen and the second elder were on the 10th level of the Pill Pagoda. The black-clothed Zhuowen sat cross-legged beside the brazier again. The alchemy flame was lying lazily on the black-clothed Zhuowen's shoulder. "Zhuo Xiaoyu, do you have something to tell me?" The second elder looked at Zhuowen in confusion and asked. Just now, Zhuowen had sent him a message asking him to go to the 10th level of the Pill Pagoda. He said that there was something important to discuss. Zhuowen took out a palm-sized cauldron from his chest. As soon as the cauldron was taken out, 4 tortoise legs and a tortoise head stretched out from the bottom of the cauldron. "This is..." The second elder's eyes were filled with confusion. However, he soon revealed a look of disbelief as if he had thought of something. "Old man, what are you looking at? Have you never seen such a handsome tortoise before?" The Pill Emperor Tortoise looked at the shocked second elder with disdain. "You guessed right. This is the Pill Emperor Tortoise. This tortoise shell is the Pill Emperor Cauldron. I think the Pill Pagoda should have records of it, right?" Zhuowen said indifferently. The second elder said excitedly, "Yes, the Pill Pagoda does have records of it. It is said that the Pill Emperor Cauldron is a magical cauldron that can refine Tao confirmation divine pills. The reason why the Pill Pagoda's ancestors set up the Pill Pagoda was because of the Pill Emperor Cauldron." After saying that, the second elder reached out to take the Pill Emperor Tortoise. However, he was almost bitten by the Pill Emperor Tortoise. "Old man, who do you think you are? How dare you touch me?" The Pill Emperor Tortoise said arrogantly. The second elder was not angry at all. He repeatedly said that he did not dare, but his mouth was smiling from ear to ear. It was no wonder that the second elder revealed such an expression. Others might not know about the Pill Emperor Cauldron, but as the second elder of the Pill Pagoda, he knew it very well. If he had the Pill Emperor Cauldron, the rise of the Pill Pagoda would be just around the corner. It was very likely that the Pill Pagoda would regain its former glory. Pill Emperor Tortoise, the Pill Pagoda is the place that guards the Pill Fire. The Pill Fire should have a great relationship with you. In addition, you don't have anything else to take out in the outside world. I think the Pill Pagoda is the best place for you to stay, Zhuowen said. The Pill Emperor Tortoise's eyes spun. His gaze fell on the Pill Fire from time to time, revealing an expression of interest. The second elder looked at the Pill Emperor Tortoise expectantly. He knew that whether or not the Pill Emperor Cauldron could stay in the Pill Pagoda depended on this tortoise's words. "For the sake of the Pill Fire, it's not impossible for me to stay in this broken Pill Pagoda. However, I have a condition. That is, I must become the master of this pill pagoda. You have to listen to me in the future, the pill emperor tortoise said magnanimously. Zhuowen frowned. This pill emperor tortoise was too insatiable. He was afraid that the second elder would not agree. However, what made Zhuowen speechless was that the second elder immediately agreed as soon as the pill emperor tortoise finished speaking. He looked a little like a lackey in the marketplace. The image of the second elder, who originally had a sage-like demeanor, instantly collapsed in Zhuowen's heart. Seeing your sincerity, this Lord Tortoise will reluctantly agree to it. In the future, you are not allowed to touch the pill fire. Only this Lord Tortoise can touch it. Do you understand? The pill emperor tortoise intended to act pretentiously and touch the pill fire. Unfortunately, when the pill fire saw the pill emperor tortoise approaching, it immediately spat out a mouthful of flames. The pill emperor tortoise's face was covered in dust. Then, it lay down on the black-robed Zhuowen's shoulder and continued to lazily nap. Tai Ching had given him 5 divine abilities, and now he realized that each of them was not simple. This disguise technique was naturally one of the 5 divine abilities, Shapeless All Life. He had already cultivated Shapeless All Life to great success. After changing his appearance, even those who were familiar with him might not be able to recognize him. Longwen, everything is ready. Let's go. Palace Master Jing Yun changed the way she addressed Zhuowen very quickly. After she called him by his new name, she took out a flying divine artifact that looked like a flower and took the lead to enter the upper deck. The dozen or so disciples of the Desire Palace also followed behind. Big brother Zhuowen, let's go in too. Yao Xiangjuan stood beside Zhuowen and said with a smile. Zhuowen nodded and entered the flying divine artifact with Yao Xiangjuan and Zhu Ru. After boarding the deck, Palace Master Jing Yun activated the flying divine artifact. With a whoosh, the flying divine artifact turned into a streamer and disappeared. Zhuowen stood on the deck and looked at the countless meteorites that were constantly being shaken off. His eyes revealed a strange look. The flying divine artifact of Palace Master Jing Yun naturally could not be compared with the space-time wheel, but it was much faster than ordinary flying divine artifacts. By the way, Palace Master Jing Yun, I still have something to ask. Huan cupped his fists and said, Say it. Palace Master Jing Yun nodded and said, In your 6 Desires Palace, is there really no disciple named Moyan Wushang? Zhuowen asked somewhat unwillingly. He had asked Yao Xiangjuan this question before, but Yao Xiangjuan had already firmly denied it. It was just that Zhuowen was not willing to give up. Palace Master Jing Yun simply replied, I have never heard of the name Moyan Wushang. Zhuowen was somewhat dejected. In his heart, he began to resent the black-clothed woman who took Moyan Wushang away. If he knew the whereabouts of the black-clothed woman, he would go to the ends of the earth to capture her. Outside the starry sky, they are the true Great Freedom Realm cultivators, those who have severed their own karma and reincarnation. That's only a legend. Have you ever seen a heaven-breaking realm expert? Zhuowen fell silent, then suddenly asked. Palace Master Jing Yun smiled bitterly and said, You're right, that's indeed a legend. I've never seen a heaven-breaking tier elite, and I've never even seen a Tao-confirming elite. But, forget it, it's useless for you to know about this now. Suddenly, Jing Yun Palace Mistress realized that she had said something wrong, so she remained silent. Zhuowen looked at Palace Master Jing Yun seriously and said, But what? If Palace Master has something to say, please feel free to say it. Palace Master Jing Yun shook her head and said with a bitter smile, This matter is related to the secrets of the 8 heavens. Only the masters of the 8 heavens who control the heaven-breaking source know the details. I only know half of it, so there's no need to say it. Palace Master, I hope you can tell me, I really want to know. Zhuowen looked at Palace Master Jing Yun seriously and said sincerely. Palace Master Jing Yun frowned slightly and sighed, I only know the rough information. The Palace Master of the Will Desire Palace is the strongest Palace Master of the 6 Desires Palace, and the heaven-breaking source is in her hands. only she knows the details. Zhuan didn't say anything, but waited for Palace Master Jing Yun to continue. He knew that since Palace Master Jing Yun brought it up, she would definitely tell him. I once heard that the 8 heavens are just a corner of the vast starry sky. Above the 8 heavens is the 9th heaven. There are many cultivators who have reached the 9th heaven, and there are even Tao-confirming powerhouses there. Moreover, the 9th heaven is the core of the starry sky. It's a place where the real powerhouses yearn for. Speaking of this, Palace Master Jing Yun hesitated for a while and said, about the 9th heaven, I only heard about it from hearsay. It's not necessarily true. You'd better not tell others about this matter, otherwise it will cause unnecessary trouble. Zhuan cupped his fists and said gratefully, many thanks, Palace Master. Palace Master can rest assured about this matter. This Zhuan won't gossip about it. Palace Master Jing Yun nodded and left the deck, but her cheeks were a little red. Palace Master Jing Yun knew that she didn't hear about the 9th heaven from hearsay, but from the Palace Master of the Will Desire Palace. Originally, she didn't even mention this matter to her disciple, but today, seeing Zhuan so emotional, she suddenly became soft-hearted and told him about the 9th heaven. Even Palace Master Jing Yun herself felt that it was a little unbelievable that she would confide in a strange man. However, thinking that Zhuan had saved her several times, Palace Master Jing Yun's heart felt a little better. She muttered in her heart that this was an act of repaying his kindness. The 9th heaven? Zhuan was still leaning on the deck, but his eyes flashed with a sharp light. He didn't doubt Palace Master Jing Yun's words. He knew that Palace Master Jing Yun didn't need to lie to him about this. Originally, Zhuan was still very confused about the starry sky, especially after the incident in the Divine Pill Mystic Realm and the blood-stained cliff. He had always been brooding about the fact that there were no Tao-confirming powerhouses in the 8 heavens. But now, Palace Master Jing Yun's words enlightened him. He knew that it's not that there are no Tao-confirming powerhouses in this starry sky, it's just that they are not in the 8 heavens, but in the mysterious 9th heaven. Thinking of this, Zhuan became more and more curious about the 9th heaven mentioned by Palace Master Jing Yun. It's just that Zhuan still has self-awareness. The 9th heaven should be very mysterious, and there must be restrictions on entering it. Otherwise, the lords of the 8 heavens would have left the 8 heavens long ago to seek better development in the 9th heaven. Thinking of this, Zhuan also knew that his current strength is still too low. Only when his strength is on par with the lords of the 8 heavens will he be qualified to know the real secrets of the 8 heavens. At that time, the mysterious veil of the 9th heaven will be unveiled by him. Half a year later, the flower-like flying divine artifact finally stopped. Zhuan heard the movement in the cabin, opened the hatch, and walked out. On the deck, Palace Master Jing Yun, Yao Xiangjuan, Zhu Rei, and the others had already gathered. Seeing Zhuan coming out, Yao Xiangjuan greeted him with a smile. Brother Zhuan, we are here. Zhuan nodded and immediately reminded her. Miss Yao, my name is Longwen now, I hope you won't expose me. Yao Xiangjuan's cheeks blushed. She rolled her eyes at Zhuan and had to change her words. Brother Long, I was wrong just now. Chapter 2439. The familiar sound of a Zitharay gigantic star field appeared in the starry sky ahead. This star field was much larger and more majestic than the Pill Furnace star field. The dazzling starlight was even more dazzling than lightning, and it covered every corner of the star field. This star region was even much larger and grander than the Grand Clarity Immortal Domain that Zhuowen had seen all those years ago. Even if Zhuowen was experienced and knowledgeable, he still revealed a trace of a dumbstruck expression when he saw this star region for the first time. This is the 6 Desires star field, the core area of the 6 Desires heavenly domain. It is also the residence of my 6 Desires palace. Palace Master Jing Yun noticed Zhuowen, who was in a daze, and a proud smile appeared on her face. The 6 Desires palace is still in the 6 Desires star field. Let's continue forward. After saying that, Palace Lord Jing Yun continued to drive the flying divine artifact and flew towards the interior of the star field. Soon, they landed in a huge cluster of buildings in the core of the star field. This cluster of buildings was directly suspended in the starry sky. Colorful clouds floated below the buildings as if these clouds were supporting the buildings. Among the buildings, the most eye-catching and the tallest were the 6 palaces. These 6 palaces stood out among the countless buildings like cranes in a flock of chickens. At the top of the 6 palaces were engraved the words desire, 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 desire. One knew that these 6 palaces should be the palaces of the 6 palace lords of the 6 Desires Palace. Palace Lord Jingyun was the master of the Desire Palace, so she arrived at the Desire Palace first. Outside the Desire Palace, there were 2 stern-looking guards. These 2 guards were also disciples of the Desire Palace who had lost their vision. The 2 guards obviously recognized Palace Lord Jingyun and hurriedly knelt on the ground to greet her. They said respectfully, "Welcome back, Palace Lord." Palace Lord Jingyun put away the flying divine artifact and ignored the 2 guards. She directly led Zhuowen and the others into the Desire Palace. "Chun-Ro, arrange a room for Zhuowen first. Xiangjuan and I need to go to the Desire Palace first." After giving the order, Palace Lord Jingyun hurriedly left the Desire Palace with Yao Xiangjuan. Zhuowen looked puzzled. Palace Lord Jingyun seemed to be in a hurry. It seemed that there was indeed an urgent matter this time. "Brother Long, I'll take my leave first. If you need anything, you can look for me at the Desire Palace. I'm a disciple of the Desire Palace." Zhu Rui smiled at Zhuowen and left the Desire Palace. "Brother Long, come with me. I'll arrange a room for you." The female disciple called Chun-Ro said respectfully to Zhuowen. Chun-Ro was one of the female disciples by Palace Master Jingyun's side. Looking at the woman in white was like looking at a pure and flawless white lotus, giving people a comfortable feeling. However, the woman in white gave Zhuowen a strange feeling. It was the first time he had seen this woman, and he was sure that this woman was definitely not Moyan Wushang. However, the way this woman played the zither and the tune of "A Male Phoenix Seeking a Female Phoenix" was exactly the same as Moyan Wushang's. This made Zhuowen have no choice but to overlap the two. What is going on? Zhuowen's eyes had a touch of disappointment. He slowly walked into the pavilion, silently listening to the tune of "A Male Phoenix Seeking a Female Phoenix," but he couldn't help but shed a tear. The scene of Moyan Wushang's departure, under the influence of "A Male Phoenix Seeking a Female Phoenix," all appeared in his mind, making Zhuowen have mixed feelings. When the tune of "A Male Phoenix Seeking a Female Phoenix" gradually came to an end, Lin had a strong impulse in his heart. He wanted to ask the woman in white in front of him where she learned this song. Thinking of this, Yun suddenly jumped out and rushed to the top of the pavilion. The moment Zhuowen leaped out, an enchanting man below the pavilion twisted his slender waist as he also leaped onto the pavilion. "Junior sister Qilan, your zither sound is really getting more and more beautiful. I didn't notice it before, but now I know that you are really a musical genius. I can't help but cry when I hear this song," the enchanting man said as he sadly wiped the tears from the corner of his eyes. His voice was full of sorrow. "You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.